top tweet in the Twitter account, is it ready? It's there, is the live stream of this room. And it's delayed by a few seconds. Is it? Oh, wait. No. Hang on. Wait. Let's unpin this tweet. Unpin.
So nice. You decided to share the cool news.
I just want to see if it works. Why
it was working early on.
I see a link there, but why isn't it put the player there yet? That's really weird. Oh, yeah, it's there. Okay, yeah, that's the link to the live, but it should make it into a player here shortly. So, yeah, the top tweet is the live stream directly in Twitter, and I will pin that to the top. And so if you want to retweet that or comment on it, you can comment on it. That's another way. Anyway, that's kind of a clever thing. And so I'll leave that pinned to the top of the Twitter account until we meet next time. So every time you see the Tech News Twitter account, the top tweet will be the most recent gathering. And we did this when we met last time, 8 hours ago, and I think it got up to nearly 400 views on Twitter alone, like separate people who stumbled upon it. And Monica, who joins us on stage often, left a comment, "Oh, this is great because I missed you guys, and now I get to see it here." And it's kind of a very cool way to keep updated if you miss an episode. So,
I found your Spotify postings very helpful, and that's why the poo-poo storm we had earlier in the week was surprising to me because I use it as a resource. I know we're recorded, right? And I don't want to go down that avenue again, but it is so helpful, and putting it on Twitter is going to be even more helpful.
But I actually I checked, and the scissors aren't working because I have a second account, and my app on my phone has the feature enabled. And I came into this room, and for whatever reason, the clips weren't available. So maybe it is that I need to create the room inside of the native iPhone app, and then
that makes sense.
And then open it up in Club Deck. But I love this clipping feature, and I highly encourage people to clip like crazy and share the clips like crazy.
Yep. Tyler, can you check the hand raise? I have some back channel.
Yeah, but unfortunately, no one's able to do any clipping today, which is very unfortunate. But
we could always do like one of those, Tyler. We could always do one of those things when you were kids, like run around the circle to play the music, and like let us all run out and run back in. It's kind of funny.
What I said yesterday about journalism was recorded.
To our Twitter,
I didn't know that.
Clips. Hold on.
This is excellent interoperability, like at altogether different level. That's what we need for maybe it's like the Metaverse 101, right? Beginning of Metaverse.
Yeah.
But Tyler, this is also because Clubhouse realizes people are recording all their rooms and kind of trying to push it over to airtime and monetizing it through podcasts. There's a number of rooms and clubs that have also been like putting the red button that they're recording, and they're taking business away from the app. I think it'd be interesting if Clubhouse just ends up purchasing airtime or something, so that it just marries the two together, and it gives them the video feature as well.
So there's somebody. Let me invite whoever has either somebody from Clubhouse is trying to get on stage here related to clips. They have a party hat. Oh, Donna's back. Donna, I have a question for you. Did you try to DM me a few days ago in my personal Twitter account?
Possibly.
And does your Twitter account not have a profile photo?
It does not have a photo.
Okay, then
he didn't have a photo.
Okay, there it is. I see that now. You sent the CoinDesk tweets. Okay,
you mean that's the question you want to ask? You should have asked me.
Well, she sent me
Cheryl knows.
Yeah, she don't have a profile picture on the Twitter account.
Okay, so
I'll correct that.
That's right. I don't.
Please update your pretty face.
Good Tyler's practicing good hygiene.
Yes. So we can get into it. Is everybody ready? So there's this new Clubhouse clipping thing, which for those wondering, I think is brilliant. I highly encourage people to clip all my crazy rantings and share them as you wish. You have my full blessing. So
I
yeah,
have a missing person announcement. Anybody know where Jimen is?
Heyman.
He's
Yeah.
probably asleep, guys. He was in last night's
No,
room.
no. Actually, he was supposed to help us with the recording of today's startup just now, but he didn't appear because he's
No,
the
what
one
I
who
mean is,
proposed it.
is
He
that Heyman
was
was
Oh,
lecturing
he
me.
oversleep
Yeah,
maybe.
no, Heyman's always lecturing me like, Chris, you need to sleep. You need to sleep. You're up until 2 every day and you wake up at 7. You need
Yeah.
sleep. So
You
last
I
were
night he
see.
comes in at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
our time. And I'm like, what are you doing awake, bro? And he's like, oh, I couldn't sleep. So I think he
Okay,
just
then
overslept.
that's okay. As long as it's fine, I think it's okay. Okay, great. We have a great room with Dr. Danish just now. Just unfortunately, it's not recorded. So if you miss it, you missed it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hey,
One.
Tyler, all those new features are not enabled for everybody, by the
Right.
way, because they're rolling them out. Okay.
Yeah.
and
So
Tyler.
Yeah, I've got the feature.
What's yeah? So what's the most important the renew is the you can record it. It's called replay, but
oh right,
it
that too.
yes.
Yes.
I
That's
Yes.
going
think
to be
that's
pretty
the
cool.
yeah that's much more important than clips.
Yeah,
They're
that's
equal. I
actually
think equally important. Yeah, they're both fantastic. They're both hugely beneficial for growing a show. If you have a show, um, it's fantastic. And it says
there's
they'll let
also a
Yeah,
you
good
keep the recorded show for as long as you like. So that would have been amazing. We've been doing this twice a day since back in March or whatever it was. It'd be interesting to see what kind of views some of those would get anyway. And then,
It
well,
would
by
be
the way,
interesting to see, yeah, when they
the
would start making meme out of these clips.
say what?
I mean, people would
making
start
memes out of the
memes
clips.
out of these
Oh,
clips.
yeah. And then even more interesting is the pre-recorded episodes. Or what are they calling that, BB? They just I forget what they
Replays.
replays. Yes, you
Yeah,
can have a
replays.
replay. And so if we have replays turned on, which of course we will, I think the thing that's so incredibly interesting about that is this new replay feature could be actually the most important feature yet, because you also can do a voice to text transcriptions very easily, and you can add that on later anytime. So at some point in the near future, super easy prediction, Clubhouse will have a speech to text transcriber like Otter AI, who already does this now anyways. And YouTube turned this on recently, so all of their millions and millions of videos can be converted into text while you watch them. Even old videos, you can watch them in any language you want. So not only do they get transcribed from audio to text, the text goes into all different languages. So that's fantastic. So then it's even better, because then you build a search. Oh, and by the way, BB, did you notice in this latest update of Clubhouse, there's
Yes.
actually 3 features? Could you please?
Actually, it's five if you're counting the spatial audio in
Oh, oh,
Android
in the
as well.
latest update that I just got, maybe there was more than 3, but there was 3 very interesting new features. The clips that we were talking about, the replay, the
Replay.
ability to replay old rooms, and like, as I'm saying, if you have the old rooms and you have text to a speech to text transcription and translation into multiple languages. And then the other feature they announced in the latest update is something they call universal search. Well, now that's interesting, because what if you can search all of the words in all of the previous rooms that have ever been played? Now you have the beginnings of a search engine.
And
Because,
Tyler,
yes,
yeah.
sorry, the, like right now, if you use the search, so you will see there are two columns. Left is people, right is clubs.
correct.
So they showed a video. If they upgraded to the universal search, you have the left from right to its top, people, clubs, room, and I forgot the last one. But you have five columns. So they were suggested maybe the top list or top people. I'm not sure, but the left side is from top, and you can search the room related to that name or your keywords as well. That's how the video shows.
Oh, there's a video of how search works, right? So
Yes,
in addition to clubs and people or users, what are the other ones?
and top. I guess it means the top of the topic, or because it's just top. The title is top, and under that seems both people and the club are shown under that. The second is people and the clubs and the rooms. And let me check the last one.
That's okay.
There are 5
That's all right. So the point is that if they're now adding more powerful search and you've got pre-recorded rooms endlessly forever, which they do, that they make a point to say that they will last as long as you want them to last, these replay rooms. And if those replay rooms can be converted from speech to text, and that text can be translated in multiple languages, and that text can be indexed and searched, now you're building a corpus of canonical content that you can search like a search engine. This is essentially what Google did. They have a whole bunch of websites with a whole bunch of text, and they index the text, and then you can find and search. And now, yes, Carl?
Sorry, more aptly in comparison with Google YouTube, if you search for something specifically and it comes up with a YouTube video, it will not only match it, but it'll also try and interpolate where in that video it should start. So you'll often see that it comes up with like a maintenance video, for instance. If you Google how to fix my MacBook battery, it'll come up with a video, but then it will show you in the search results that it's from 13 seconds to 56 seconds, which is the bit that you care about. So it can, if they go down that route, Clubhouse could very easily not just show you the transcription, but it'll just bring up the replay of the room and play you the audio from the point that you're searching from that key point. So, and that's very cool, but I do worry that it would make people a little bit more hesitant with what they say, because if I can put the name of somebody important in and bring up immediately every result of every time they've ever spoken, then that pseudo-anonymity that we think we have on Clubhouse by being lost in the masses kind of is eroded a little.
Well, the thing is,
that's an illusion, isn't it? Like, because
it is an illusion, absolutely, but it's an illusion that people adhere to that enables them to speak. Because, okay, yes, I'm being recorded, but like Tyler, for instance, hundreds of thousands of thousands of recordings. Any particular thing that might be said at any point is lost in there. It would take you a long time to find it. If you can index it and search it instantly, then the size doesn't really matter anymore.
Carl, if that can cut off some BS, I'll be happy.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that, actually, Carl. Yeah.
Oh, Simon from Otter AI. Perfect. Simon. Hello, welcome back. And Simon, who just joined the stage, works at Otter AI, which does precisely what we're talking about, which takes audio in a room like this and converts it into perfect text. You do a fantastic, mind-blowingly good job of converting very rapid, fluid, organic conversations, including the weekly town hall meetings here in Clubhouse, into text. And it's brilliant. And imagine that Clubhouse buys Otter AI and adds that ability to all these replay rooms that can, as YouTube did years later. YouTube had, a decade worth of videos and then bought a speech to text translator ability. Well, they didn't buy it. They used Google Translate, obviously. And then they applied it to all their videos, and now it's all in English, and then they transcribe it into every language, and now it's searchable by every language, by everybody in the world, of every piece of thing that was ever said in any YouTube video ever. And that's why Google bought YouTube, because Google understood that eventually people are going to stop writing websites and blog posts and start talking in videos, and now they're talking in rooms like this. And the next stage is, create more incentives for people to use this remarkable, miraculous medium called social audio. And there will be tons of it, endless hours, billions and billions of hours of social audio. And that's going to that's a lot of incredible, valuable information, both in real time and what we call canonical, historical information. And now you have a very easy justification of a $4 billion valuation, because now you're a fucking search engine, y'all. And that is incredibly easy to monetize stuff right there. Simon?
I just love how both you and this whole gang right here, the tech news gang, that's manifesting the future. I love it. I think I think in general, 30 more seconds. I think in general, this is a great validation and a stamp in the near-term future that we're moving toward. That people are gonna see the value of being able to record and transcribe and persist the knowledge that all the great things that we all talk about in tech news and any type of rooms where we're having thoughtful discussions and being searchable, I think it's not so bad. So I think we just need to get comfortable about speaking the truth, adding value, and turn all of this knowledge that we discuss in the near term, whether it's in clubhouse rooms or in meetings or in interviews, and then be able to remind ourselves of recent past self or 1-year-old self. What are some thoughts and ideas that we discuss? And then be able to turn it into something that's searchable and relevant and pops it back up. So everything is indexed and searchable so that we can benefit ourselves, benefit each other, benefit our colleagues, benefit our different departments in a larger organization, or just benefit the whole community in general. So I think it's so super important. So I'm so glad that Clubhouse founders finally gets it and say, yes, recording, clips, replay, love it. I love the
and
direction
search. They added search to the latest version of the update. So
yes. But I think if I read it carefully for now, it's just searching very basic metadata.
Correct.
But I agree with the direction that you're thinking that everybody has been talking about in the last 30 minutes. I think that's the right direction to go.
And then the next step is, as we talked about when we met 8 hours ago, I have a new feature request that I think would be an absolute game changer for the app in addressing the issue of getting lots of awesome new content into the app. Having been part of YouTube from early on, and Heyman's chatting in the back channel, Cheryl, he's awake. So,
yeah, he called me, okay, and he's so sorry about that.
That's all right. So okay. The idea that I would love Clubhouse to allow me to record a few seconds, 15 seconds, little audio clip that plays to anyone who as they enter the room. So it says room loading. Hey, this is Tyler. Just want to say this or that or whatever. And today's show is brought to you by whatever the sponsor is. Enjoy the room. Boom, and you're in the room. And you have I can also extend the option to you to skip over my little welcome greeting, which may be an ad, I may ask you to, it might be an ad, it might not. But that 15-second or whatever they're willing to, might be willing to give to the room creator, if I am able to give that ad, because when we do this room, in the course of, it brings about 1,000 people an hour come into this room, very consistently. 2 hours is about 2,000 people. 3 hours is about 3,000 people. So at 1,000 people per hour, and we do 6 hours per day, so we're talking about 6,000 people come in. That's 6,000 ad impressions. That's incredibly valuable. I can monetize the shit out of that by telling you to go to NordVPN and use our code TNATW at NordVPN. I could make $1,000 a day doing that. So could anybody. And then all of a sudden, you have a whole lot of interesting people. It's worth their time to participate, just like YouTube did around year 3 of YouTube when they started allowing people to monetize in YouTube. Pre-monetization in YouTube was almost exclusively cat videos. And then they started monetization, and what do you know, Joe? All of a sudden, you've got people that have more interesting videos to show in YouTube. And
you could add those periodically through the recordings as well. You could set that auto. So
I don't even need it.
The introduction.
I just want it as a welcome at the front. And this would be technically, because it's difficult to build an ad network, right? Because that's a marketplace. It's a chicken and egg, and you got to go get a whole bunch of sponsors. You have to make this system where people can buy ads and target ads. They're not easy, as Carl can verify. It's not simple that's not a simple thing to build an ad network into a social media app. Although adding a little 15-second recording at the greeting of a room, that's child's play. You could do that in a few hours. And I, as the creator, can turn that into an ad for myself. I can go, there's tons of affiliate websites where I can go find, tons of affiliate codes, programs to promote different products and services that might be relevant to our audience. And that could be very lucrative. And by saying this, by enabling this, now content creators can monetize their rooms very significantly, because that Verge article that came out 48 hours ago, the gist of the beef in that article was that in fact, the headline of the article read, Clubhouse needs creators, but creators need money. Okay, give me 15 seconds of each person who enters the room, I can convert that into money. Easy fucking peasy. Anyone can. There's plenty of websites that can give you hundreds of products who are just looking for distribution to people's audiences, and they give you the ability to make your own discount code. Every YouTube video you see these days is, Lex Friedman's. Every podcast is like, hey, well, Joe Rogan's like, go get the Cash App, use the code Joe Rogan Experience, go to this product and test it out and use the code this, or that. That's affiliate marketing. You can then use that 15 seconds intro to do affiliate marketing and monetize your show. And now you're going to get tons of creators. They're going to be able to make their little careers here in Clubhouse. So with that, but given the current constraints that Clubhouse have, as they're still a very young, relatively small startup, they're very limited and have to focus very carefully on what time they allow to different projects. But bang for buck, I think Carl would agree, as he's a developer, that creating that 15-second audio and welcoming greeting, call it the greeting room, right?
Interstitial.
Yeah, technically in the ad business we call them interstitials, but to be able to do what I call, I think, consumerize the terminology for a second and call it a greeting, a host greeting, or what a mod greeting, that will do for Clubhouse what turning on monetization did for YouTube, which was it turned that whole entire platform from a whole bunch of cat videos into a whole bunch of interesting content, a robust library of interesting content, because now it's worth intelligent people's time to participate. So, and addresses head on, bullseye, that the whole critique of that Verge article that says Clubhouse needs creators and creators need money. There it is. Boom, you're done. In a weekend, they could turn that on in their next update. That is absolutely trivial to write the code on that. And again, I could also, if I in my greeting have a toggle that lets people skip it and just press the bypass button, and because they heard it yesterday, they don't need to hear it again, they can skip it. Up to me as the room creator if I want to push a 15-second greeting on you or not. So anyway, that's my feature request.
Yeah, that's great.
One more thing with the audio to text translation, which if that happens either with Otter, or which I love, and by the way my niece loves, is that in some rooms it's very technical, and if it can be translated, if it can be transformed into text, it can really be a learning experience for younger people who are trying to understand certain fields, and they can then refer to the text after having listened to the audio simultaneously, and that's a real educational opportunity. So that would be great also.
Absolutely a case for educational, institutional, even Clubhouse summits. Like, right now there's the Emotional Intelligence Summit is using Otter right now for precisely this reason. So there's a lot of educational value as well. But to add on to Tyler's idea, just to throw it in there, what about a 30-second room reset, right? The sponsored room reset, that can also be monetized for the creator. So there's a lot of win-win-win situations.
Okay. That bandwidth can be dynamic, right? So you need not play just one clip, and based on the persona of the guy who's entering the room, you can play a different clip there. And Tyler, I think you can suggest, and they can put that feature just for you. and just see the test case, do the A/B testing. That's actually a good idea.
Not to mention deaf and hard of hearing people can actually be on Clubhouse if they actually put the text on the bottom as well.
Simon, can I give you a suggestion and hopefully you can run with it? I would recommend having a chronological bar that lists your speakers. And when they speak, there's like a graph that spikes up and down based on the timeline. Because I find that very helpful. Sometimes it's like, David Crace said something, towards the middle of the show. And I'll find myself scrubbing through Spotify trying to find it. If there was a visual way to see on a timeline who's speaking and when they speak with little spikes, almost like SoundCloud does, it would be gangbusters. And I think you would have a killer feature besides the transcription that would really just make your company go gangbusters. So hopefully you could take that if it makes any sense.
Great suggestions. Stay tuned.
Okay. Are we ready? Anyone got a headline they want to jump into before we get into the big popular ones?
Well, Tyler, that NFT one's really interesting.
Oh, yes, it is. Let's do that one. So I tweeted it right before the room opened, and I will retweet it again right now. Amay found this from Justin Taylor, who recently joined Twitter as the head of consumer product marketing, previously at Nike and Activision. And he tweeted a video recording screenshot from his phone of a fellow Twitter team member. Shnikes. When I untweeted it, it went away. I'm an idiot. Can you...
I think his name is Justin Taylor. He's
yeah.
It's on my page as well.
I got it. What's his Twitter account?
I think it says, oh God, it's like something dreamy or stormy dreamy. Some
yes,
weird name.
It was something crazy like that.
The Smarmy Bum.
Yes, there it is. Got it. Thank you. Found it. Okay, so he's got this video that I'm tweeting out now to the Tech News Twitter account of someone at Twitter named Mara Affleck, who's a software engineer working on, she's a tech lead. And this is what Amay's dream come true, this one. And you have to see it to kind of understand it, but I'll try and talk you through it. Essentially, you can update your photo, your avatar in Twitter, and the first thing it asks you to do is, I'm going to explain it as it
connect your MetaMask wallet.
It asks you, okay, let's connect to. There's a whole new collectibles tab in your Twitter account. Right. So when on your Twitter profile, you have your tweets, and then you've got your media, which is your photos and your videos that people can just skip to all of your tweets that have photos and videos. And now there's and your replies, so people can, stalk you and see how you're replying to everybody. And now there's a new tab called Collections. And on that Collections, it's your ability to showcase all of your digital assets, and you connect to your Coinbase wallet, and once you're in Coinbase, you connect to wherever you're hosting wherever your NFTs are being held.
Wallet. I think he's doing a Web3 wallet, and it also ties very seamlessly back to what he's doing with the Lightning Network and what Jack Dorsey's bigger vision is, in my opinion.
Yes, and in doing so, you can now prove you have a place to showcase and sort of prove that you own these NFTs. And that's part of the fun of owning them, is the ability to prove that you actually are the owner of them. So, it also applies to your actual Twitter avatar. So in the video that they show here, the person updates their Twitter avatar, and instead of choosing a photo from their iPhone's photos, they choose one of the NFTs that they own. And in this case, they show one of the CryptoPunks, and it has a little cute icon, an Ethereum icon next to it to kind of validate that it's legit.
Tyler, oh my God, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I am.
The fact that, remember they said about the personas?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this marries beautifully together with that, because now the personas could be attached to a different NFT, which actually could demonstrate a different persona inside your Twitter account. But now it gives you the option possibly to have multiple different NFTs as your profile pictures, depending on your persona.
Yep. So it's a lot of fun stuff happening in Twitter and in Clubhouse today. So we're going to get into the headlines now. Thank you for finding that and sharing that, Ame. It is
Trader Joe saw it, Ame. Trader Joe saw it a long time ago. It was for sale in Trader
Look,
Joe's.
Trader Joe, I got a list for you. We have to have a back channel conversation.
But in order to do all of this, we need like really good GPUs and good set of computations. And I'm not sure if Clubhouse would have that sort of access as Google has. And that all the features we can think of, unless the computation is good, I think not much is going to happen there.
Okay, so here we go with the top stories, shall we? The top story at this moment is senators grilled Facebook executive Antigun Davis at a hearing about Instagram's impact on teens and were frustrated by her reticence to answer questions directly, according to TechCrunch. Last night, Facebook published so there's a whole bunch of publications that have their own takes on this. For example, let's see. Bloomberg's headline says Facebook prioritizes greed over children, senators say. New York Times headline says, we know what Facebook knew, and when we knew it, now what? Okay, Washington Post says lawmakers hammer Facebook for hiding how its products may hurt kids. CNBC says lawmakers give Facebook a clear message, don't build Instagram for kids. NBC News or the Guardian says Congress grills Facebook exec on Instagram's harmful effects on children. That's a very fair headline. BBC says Facebook grilled over mental health impact on kids. Wired, which is a geek pro tech headline one, says the Senate is mad at hell at Facebook again. And it actually makes it a hilarious point that pointing out a bit of kind of ironic hypocrisy that the Congress, which is about to shut down the fucking government due to its ineptitude, is lecturing Facebook, one of the most successful enterprises in the history of mankind, on how it needs to run itself. And, the inability for the government to do anything and fix its own glaring problems. And yet they're lecturing Facebook on, its problems. So it is in that context. It's a fair point. It's kind of, I didn't really consider it until I saw that headline.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I mentioned that to Ken last night. I'm like, don't these guys have something to do with the debt ceiling? And I get it, but it's like, come on.
Like the whole government's about to shut down, and if you don't raise the debt ceiling, you're going to send the entire planet into an economic collapse. Maybe you want to think about your role and your responsibilities, what has led us to this cliff that we're about to fall off. And let's not worry so much about this app and how, priorities. So anyway, it's a little ironic and a little bit hypocritical, but nonetheless, it's an important, I don't want to diminish it. It's an important issue. And it seems to me Facebook does understand that mom and dad are putting their foot down and are very adamant this time and very insistent that you better shape up your act, or we're going to take away your toys and your games and we're going to regulate your ass. So either fix it, or now this is the third and final warning, Marky. Do you hear me, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg? This is your mom and dad, the Senate, talking, and you either fix this issue, or we're going to take away your car keys for the weekend and your telephone, and no more Nintendo for you. Okay, Mark? And Mark seems to understand that they're not joking around this time, and he probably is going to have, he already said, okay, I'm not going to release Instagram for kids, and let's see but ultimately, what is the real solution here? They're going to have to fix their algorithm, and their algorithm's based on engagement. And engagement's what got them the success that they have. So they're caught walking a tightrope with their investors about diminishing engagement. They now have to show content that isn't optimal for engagement. That's a little tough for them to do. ethic. I mean, in terms of their own corporate ethics, which aren't really, which are quite different from social ethics, but they're going to knowingly reduce engagement on their site when, since the minute they were created, they've been optimizing for engagement on their site. This is going to be very difficult to do internally, but they have to do it, or do they? So that's where we're at, and let's see how it shakes out. Anyone have a guess on how they think it will shake out?
I don't think they'll do it, and I don't think I think Congress just gives lip service every single time they bring these guys on. You got to remember, Facebook had lobbyists before they were even public, and they've spent, Zuckerberg's renowned $500 million in the last election. I think they have a very clever way to go before Congress, say the right things. They know they're in the back pocket of most of these senators and congressmen, and they just do whatever they have to just skate by. These guys in Congress have no clue about Facebook. You got guys up there asking how they can offer a free service, and Zuckerberg looks at them and says, "We sell ads." I mean, it's just laughable, and I think they'll just slide by. They'll just do the minimal they can, and they'll bury the stuff in algorithms and confuse the shit out of them, and they'll have the regulations just won't come to fruition.
It really depends on the midterm elections and whether they can get through all this chaos in Washington. Because let's say, which is highly unlikely, but if the Democrats are able to gain control, increase or at least maintain control of Congress, and then if they can sort out through these budget issues, then they can focus on Facebook for the next 2 years. And they'll probably get some, as I said yesterday, some Republican assistance on this issue. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
I'm going to go with the first speaker. It's not going to be regulated. I don't, they can't, how they aren't sharp enough. It's a super complicated thing to do. It's going to have to come more from public. And that wing, as Tyler pointed out, there's shareholder interest, there's public interest, there's a lot of different competing interests here, but I don't see regulators being able to do something that actually is meaningful here.
Yeah. So but just to, as a thought experiment for a second, what would you do if you were Facebook? So if I were Facebook, no, and here's the problem: they're not operating in a vacuum. They have TikTok surpassing them at the moment, right? In engagement, like you can't reduce engagement. TikTok's engagement is through the roof. They're more engaging than you are, and they're not in the hot seat at the moment. So how do you play this exactly? So because
I have an idea.
well, I'd love to hear it. But my point is, in specifically, let's really focus here and be very strategical and tactical for a second. The issue is about Instagram. The issue is somebody has made a strong case that you're putting profits over people's better, over people, and on Instagram, and especially young ladies and their body image, you're gonna have to come up with a way a month from now to have a new study that shows that you've made actual progress on this particular issue of young ladies and their self-image, and how Instagram, a month from now, you're going to, right? Let's agree. This is probably a good strategy. A month from now, Facebook has to announce, now we're going to do a new study. We've made some changes to our algorithm, and we expect the outcome of this change in our algorithm is going to actually head-on address this issue, and we're going to crack the code on young women's body image issues. Okay, so, and then a month from now, you are going to have new data, and that new data is going to show, miraculously, that young women actually now don't have any problems. Instagram isn't actually causing them to have negative self-image, body self-image, right? And then you're going to say, hey, Congress, we did it. Hey, everybody, look who did it. It's your boy over here, Marky Mark, and the Funky Bunch over here at Facebook. We figured it out. We solved the problem. We're all good, everybody. It's been real. Take care. We're just going to go back to competing with TikTok. Leave us alone. Thank you. So now they need to do that. And the question is, that new study that they do, of course you can rig that thing 5 ways to Friday. No one can prove that you did. And maybe that's your way out. Is that not a clever strategy for getting yourself out of this whole quagmire that they have found themselves in for the moment? And maybe they do adjust the algorithms in some interesting way that they do know will specifically, maybe they even go so far as to invite back the exact same people who took that survey before. You can forget the guys, you don't need them because no one's complaining about them. You just get the young ladies who answered that question that way, and you're like, hey ladies, we'd love you to come back. You know, find some incentive. You know, we're gonna make sure that Beyonce follows you on Instagram if you participate. Great. Okay, thank you. So here's what we need you to do. We need to keep using Instagram for a month, and then we're going to answer this question. And then you get to go to this Beyonce concert and meet Beyonce backstage. Great. Okay, lovely. And then you can tell the press, oh, we got those same ladies back, and guess what? We fixed the problem. You're welcome. Next.
Or a competing group. They don't need the exact same ladies, Tyler. They, as you're pointing out, they could just do another small study. Their algorithms, they can do anything they want.
Right,
These guys
but
are
then,
geniuses, and they can do it within their group.
right,
Yeah.
But then people will be skeptical, like, you cherry picked out the people. You fudged all this data. You didn't really do anything. You got all of your cousins to answer the survey, and of course they answered it the way you wanted them to answer, and bada boom, bada bing.
The thing
Isn't
is,
that what Facebook historically has done with most of the changes they have done? You know, when they started way back and then, and they said the news feed, people complained and they were going to leave Facebook. They said, oh, I'm sorry, but then they kind of pushed through without even changing that much. Or, you know, the privacy setting that they were sharing, like, husband was buying rings or something by default that you were supposed to opt out, and that they made it the job yours, and then everybody was sharing. And then when the teenagers, well, at least the young people said, let's leave Facebook, and then they say no, but then they pushed through, and with the data sharing until they got caught with doing something else. But they usually just push through without minimally changing a lot of things.
I think language is so important, right? I mean, for example, here's a quick example. Apple has this feature where you can use your iPad as a second screen,
Yep.
right? And all of us naturally are like, cool, we can use our finger with it. We can finally touchpad. I can finally put touchpad on or touch screen on my Mac, but you can't. And so, like, the question is, you go type, like, oh, how come I can't use touchscreen with my iPad? When you go to Apple's site, they frame it so well. They just tell you, well, here's this great feature. You can use your mouse with it. And they didn't say anything about what you couldn't do. And so what I'm getting at is, this was an 11 out of 12 positive note slide. Whoever put that one-third number thought that one-third equaled, like, well, this is a low number. It's a low fraction of the portion. But the thing is they framed it as 1/3 have suicidal thoughts. If they would have framed it as 2/3 do not have suicidal thoughts, we may not be having this conversation. And I'll shut up now.
Well, this is my point, is they need to address this particular issue is hanging over them. They've got this image problem now. I mean, this is just how society works, as things get stretched beyond. And it's, to be very technical, it's like the question was, does Instagram give you a better or worse self-image around these following issues? And, one of them was your financial health. Oh, Instagram actually helps. Okay, your stresses about your family. Oh, Instagram is, most of the people said it helps. And then when it comes to self-image, your body image, and it was negative. And then somehow that has become extrapolated out beyond into, Instagram's bad for young girls. Well, no, on 12 across 12 different issues, on the majority of issues, Instagram actually helps young girls, according to the young girls. And on one particular issue, as it relates to body image, they believe that it's not helping them. Well, by the way, they are in some part responsible for the content that they see on Instagram. Instagram's sending you what they think they want, that you want to see. If you didn't want to see it, you don't look at it, and you can easily send signals that you're not interested in particular content by not continuing to look at it. So again, this is why, magazines and Barbie dolls, and this has been an age-old issue, since back in the day here in America, and Facebook needs to address it head on, and they need to redefine it and be and reclassify it, that it's not just Facebook's bad for young kids or Facebook's bad for young women. It's an even smaller subsection. They need to make clear that the issue is Instagram. That young female users of Instagram think that it causes them to have a negative body self-image, and just drive that issue home, that it's a very specific thing that they ranked low on in that survey, and then go out to combat it. And they should be on a mission to do a resurvey, ideally with the same people, and adjust things until they did it, and then show, hey, look, we just went out of our way to fix an actual issue head on. And the next, I'm sure we will have other issues in the future, and when we have them, we will take the same approach to systemically fix them. Now, whether or not they actually truly fix those issues, like I said, it's a whole lot of gray areas here. It's a whole lot of, you could get very fancy and funny with what you do to the algorithm, and who you pick to be in the survey, and how you ask the questions, and get yourself out of that pickle politically without really fixing the systemic problem. But by the way, if they had never done these surveys and shared them internally, they wouldn't be in front of the Senate anyways. So the reason Barbie didn't have a Senate hearing was because Barbie never did a survey to find out how tragically they were fucking up every young girl's body self-image. Barbie would have been hung from a burning flaming cross if Mattel had ever done a survey of young ladies. 99% of young ladies think that Barbie gives them a negative body self-image. But Mattel wasn't, hung up and hindquartered because they never did a survey. So no data to show we did anything wrong. Ignorance is bliss. We don't know if it's hurting you or not because we never asked. So
Tyler?
Yes.
May I
This is Robert.
contribute?
Yeah.
I still have a complex over G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip and Robin Cyber Robot.
Yeah. My point is that now that we're in the age of digital shit, Facebook, if they're going to be doing surveys about their users, oh boy, every tech company in the world just took a huge note to themselves in the past 3 days. Keep all data about all survey questions in a fucking private vault under, crypto passwords, and physical keys, because if that shit never let it be known by internal employees, you're setting yourself up for, really dangerous shit if you have negative results of any kind in these surveys. So don't do surveys, and if you do, be very careful about it. Aram, you were saying?
If I were them, I would do the survey because my intention is to create a new product, which is positive. The R&D department is already working on it. There is something down the pipeline already, and that's why this is all shaping up this way. They're trying to stay ahead of the curve, and they already have their team working on the positive reinforcement models.
Yeah, I just think positive reinforcement apps traditionally don't do so well on the internet.
Not in that sense. I mean, the models that promote positive self-image in a good way, not the addicting or negative way, because we do have those pathways in our brains,
Yes.
and the research, the neuro guys already are working on that aspect instead of the addictive model.
Yeah. Okay. So, by the way, the person who's kind of responsible for this whole brouhaha, this internal leaker at Facebook, is going to appear in a TV interview on Sunday on America's premier interview news show called 60 Minutes. And boy, are people going to be glued for that one. And then that same whistleblower is going to be appearing in a Senate hearing in front of these same senators next week on October 5th. And they're going to, really, obviously their intention is to throw their employer under the bus. The question, I guess now it's known they are a former employer, actually. That's been revealed. It's also revealed that it's a blonde woman. We've actually saw a short video clip of from 60 Minutes. They've already recorded the segment. They're going to air it on Sunday. And they showed a little teaser, and then they show the person from behind, and it's appears to be an affluent, middle-aged blonde woman. And
could be a wig. Could be a wig.
Could be a wig, yes. And
Could be Sheryl Sandberg.
yeah, that would be a plot twist.
Easy.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to learn a lot more in the days to come. So
Tyler,
yes.
the silver bullet in all this is for them to hire a new spokesperson, and the most trusted man in America, Anthony Fauci, is going to be looking for a job. So I think the Senate loves Fauci, so that might work out well.
There's a plot twist. So in fact, the second biggest story on the Twitter webs at the moment happens to be the one we were started today with, which is Clubhouse announces several new features, including 30-second clips, letting listeners snip audio and send it out on the social networks. Fantastic. I love it. Hopefully, I need to figure out how to make that work here for Tech News Around the World tomorrow for our special Saturday edition. And then there's also the ability for room creators to enable replay of the rooms after the rooms have closed. Love that one. Which lets hosts essentially record the room. And also, as not mentioned in this article, they announced universal search, better search, basically, and spatial audio for Android, which already exists on Apple's iOS. But that combination of replaying rooms and universal search with speech to text transcriptions, which Simon on stage, his company does, Otter AI, you add those three together and you have a search engine. Boom, boom, boom. And boy, you're now competing with YouTube. YouTube also is a search engine, by the way. You search for topics, and then they show you videos, just like Google. You search on Google for topics, and they show you web pages and videos, both, kind of a mix. And in the future, they might show you Clubhouse rooms related to your search that you search on Google.
It's going to make Clubhouse much more sticky versus Spaces and other apps. I mean, if you have all your recordings there and all your transcriptions there, it's going to be very sticky, difficult to move.
Well, all the more reason for this whole third, opening greeting audio thing, because then that what my feature request to Clubhouse, where I'm saying give me 15 seconds optional to add at the beginning of the room for everyone entering the room when they enter the room, whenever they enter the room, because there's people entering now who, and when those people enter the room, they hear my 15-second greeting where I give a shout out to go down, try this new, VPN service to protect your data from the Russians and the Chinese, and use our code TNATW to get 30% off. That will play in the replay in perpetuity. And I continue to make money off that show forever. And that's how you make money, by the way, is you build a catalog of content with ads in it that play forever. So now Clubhouse becomes an actual monetizable thing. And then you get real content creators coming in here and pretending to be the next Howard Stern, and you solve the content problem on the platform.
Yeah, Twitch does something like that, right? Whenever you join a live stream, they have a little bit of a recording or advertising beforehand.
I don't know if they do or not, but the next article is Slack says that the service is down for many users worldwide since late Thursday afternoon due to a DNS issue. The workplace messaging app Slack, used by Apple employees, might not be restored until 5 p.m. Eastern Time Friday for some people. Next, TikTok launches NFT collections featuring six. They're starting with a handful of specific creators, including Little Nas, where they
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and so our friend Jeremiah Oyang, who joins us here regularly, shared a tweet about this, saying every social network will launch, house, and offer an exchange for NFTs. Here comes TikTok. And is TikTok the first social media app to do this with NFTs?
Yep.
Well, by the way, TikTok.
And they're doing it through Ethereum. So they're doing it like basically on the Ethereum blockchain.
Right. So TikTok, and this headline came out a few hours ago, right? And then Twitter, right, Amay? Not to be outdone.
Yep.
Twitter
popped out.
Twitter's like, hold the phone, Tyrone. We got the NFT shit happening over here too in Twitter land. A few hours later.
The battle is who's going to be the third person now, which is going to be the third one to do it.
So you got to love how competitive TikTok and Twitter are to, I mean, literally the same day. They both launch NFT functionalities. Pretty freaking impressive.
How long do you think it'll take Instagram to do it?
Quite more than a minute, because I think they think of their audience as not being so crypto minded. And
correct,
they need the wallet integration too, right?
And by the way, this could actually, Facebook has their own game in mind with their own currency in mind. So they might not want to be so full on NFT. Knowing Facebook, they're very controlling, and they might want to create their own whole separate, more simplified concept. So Uncle Bobby and Aunt Susie can, but let's be honest, and the whole concept of NFTs and blockchains, out of Facebook's 3 billion users, there's only maybe 1 million that can understand this concept, and they've got 3 billion users who are wildly confused by it, and for whom this is more of a headache than anything. So they need to make it boneheaded simple, as they are known for doing. And so they're going to come up with a whole new, more simple, much more simplified concept, so that grandma and grandpa and Uncle Joey and that cousin who hit his head, who can't understand anything, can participate in Facebook's watered down versions of digital assets that they'll call face coins or some silly name like that.
And they'll only live on Facebook.
Right. Well, my point is Facebook has a history of making things super simple. I think NFTs are too complex for the Facebook audience generally, so they'll come up with their own thing, and I think that will apply to. They'll probably want to leverage, the Instagram, Facebook synergies and WhatsApp, and kind of unite the three around their own kind of Facebook coin, Facebook digital wallet, and their own digital asset collection scheme.
Yes, and just to remind everyone, that scheme called the Novi Wallet is currently before, I think, all 50 states to get approval, because that needs approval, because when you start going in and out of coins and different coins and go to fiat, they're all going to have to be licensed in all states. So that is in the process now.
So next up, Zoom says it no longer plans to acquire cloud-based call center software maker Five9 following the FCC's review of the $14.7 billion deal on national security grounds, according to CNBC. Zoom attempted acquisition of a software maker, failed to win sufficient approval from the Five9 shareholders, and so it's not going through. A $14.7 billion deal. Not going to happen. The Verge says retailer Neiman Marcus says it notified 4.6 million customers that their personal info, including credit card numbers, may have been exposed in a data breach. And a look at the $12 billion location data industry, including how collectors, aggregators, and marketplaces monetize user data. Did you hear that sound? Did somebody hear something? I just heard something. That's the sound of data. That's your data that people are selling, and your location data is worth $12 billion. So let's take a little looky-loo at this one. It says a huge but little-known industry has cropped up around monetizing people's movements. Companies that you likely have never heard of are hawking access to the location history of your mobile phone. An estimated $12 billion market, the location data industry has many players, collectors, aggregators, marketplaces, and location intelligence firms, all of which boast about the scale and precision of the data they have amassed. Location firm Near describes itself as the world's largest data set of people's behavior in the real world, with data representing 1.6 billion people across 44 countries. Mobile Walla boasts 40 plus countries and 1.9 billion devices, 50 billion mobile signals daily, 5+ years of data. Xmode's website claims its data covers 25% of the adult U.S. population monthly. In an effort to shed light on this little monitored industry, the markup, who I'm reading this from, has identified 47 companies that harvest, sell, or trade in mobile phone location data. While hardly comprehensive, the list begins to paint a picture of the interconnected players that do everything from providing code to app developers to monetize their user data, to offering analytics from 1.9 million devices and access to data sets on hundreds of millions of people. 6 companies claimed more than 1 billion devices in their data, and at least 4 claimed their data was the most accurate in the industry. And then they do a breakdown of all of these geo data players. And here's a quote: there isn't a lot of transparency, and there's really, really complex, shadowy web of interactions between these companies that's hard to untangle. Justin Sherman, a cyber policy fellow at the Duke Tech Policy Lab, said they operate on the fact that the general public and people in Washington and other regulatory centers aren't paying attention to what they're doing. Occasionally, stories illuminate just how invasive this industry can be. In 2020, Motherboard reported that one of the companies was collecting data from a Muslim prayer app and selling it to military contractors. The Wall Street Journal also reported in 2020 another company was selling location data to federal agencies for immigration enforcement. That's clever, eh? Yeah, we are the Border Patrol. Yeah, we're looking for people, illegal people. Can you please give us... do you have a data set for illegal people? Oh, you do? Oh, lovely. We would love their home addresses and their workplaces. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Monetized data. Thank you. Thank you for that data. Very helpful. Oh, you have Muslims? Great. We'll take the Muslim database, please. How much for the Muslim database? Thank you. Thank you very much. A Catholic news outlet also used location data from a data vendor to out a priest who had frequented gay bars. Though it's still unknown what company sold that information, many firms promise that privacy is at the center of their business and that they're careful to never sell information that can be tracked back to a person, but researchers studying anonymized location data have shown just how misleading that claim can be. The truth is, it's hard to know all the ways in which your movements are being tracked and traded. Companies often reveal little about what apps serve as sources of data they collect, what exactly the data consists of, and how far it travels. To piece together a picture of the ecosystem, the markup reviewed the websites and marketing language of each of the 47 companies, as well as any information they revealed about how the data got to them. And it talks about how the data leaves your phone, and how it leaves your phone is those free apps that you're playing, those games that you think are free, they're collecting your data. And they're selling the data to these data brokers. And then the data brokers sell it to people who want to track Muslims or immigrants or illegal and whatnot, or people who are suspected of being gay priests. And they make money. So they pay you for if you're a little game app that's giving your game away for free, you want to give it away for free because you want to get as many people as possible because you're selling the data. So you want a lot of users. That's why you give the app away for free. And then you sell all of that user data that you collect to the data brokers. And then you wipe your hands. All our job's done here. We got paid. And they're going to sell that data however they want, but we don't know what they're going to do. How are we supposed to know that you're, being sought out by the intelligence agencies? So this whole article is a look into that whole shady industry, and the person.
Tyler,
1 second.
Just quickly.
1 second. The person at the start of the article was exactly right, which is the only reason this still exists is whenever the government finds out that this exists. Of course, the government agencies like the Border Patrol knows this exists because they're customers. And the CIA and the FBI, they know this exists because they're customers of these, products and services. And yet our lovable geriatric friends on Capitol Hill have no clue this is going on, and that's why it's not being regulated, as that person said at the start of the article. Go ahead.
Tyler, all the big car companies, they use this data to launch, it's just that they do not use this directly. It's like money laundering layer over layer, but at some point of time, their marketing campaign, be it Hyundai, BMW, everyone. So if someone is walking via BMW showroom, so Hyundai and all the other car companies would know. So this is happening for like last 2-3 years. Of course, they do not directly use this, but they use it.
Yep. Okay, next up. That's the $12 billion location data industry. The next one is USB. The USB Forum issues new USB certification logos that show if a cable supports 60 watts or 240 watts. So you won't be confused when you plug in a 60-watt cable to try and use it as a power cable for your MacBook, and then you think it doesn't work. It does. It's only a 60-watt cable. And you need to know if it's a 240-watt cable or a 60-watt cable. Now they're going to put logos on all new cables. And then The Verge has an article, a look at the rise of employee dissent at Apple, including pushback against returning to the office, fighting for pay, equity, and increasing leaks. And which The Verge is all too happy to assist in all of those things. All too happy to assist in helping those leaks get out. All too happy about helping exacerbate any kind of anguish they can cause to Apple, which is going to come back and bite them in the ass. Because somebody named Alex on Twitter says, we mock Apple's PR strategy here and there of being impossible to reach, but maybe it, like so many of us, just gave up on email. Anyway, it's I have to imagine the Apple's making a note of The Verge's articles here and won't be so fast to include them in their future product releases. So the next one from CNBC. The founder of a decentralized finance staking protocol called Compound begs and issues threats to users, asking them to voluntarily return $90 million after mistakenly sending them the money. About $90 million has mistakenly gone out to the users of popular DeFi staking protocol Compound, and the founders begging users to voluntarily return the tokens.
Would you return the money, Tyler? That's what I said. I mean, they've asked like people to return the money, which good luck with that.
Done the 1099 or W-2 and they'll change their mind.
South Korean internet service provider sues Netflix over costs for traffic surge from hit shows. This is all about net neutrality, and this is a really interesting concept that South Korea suing Netflix over the cost for traffic surge from hit shows, because this internet service provider is like, holy shit, Netflix is starting to become singularly, this one app is starting to make up a rather significant portion of traffic for internet service providers in Korea. And so they want to tax Netflix. By the way, so do the internet service providers in America, but that's against the law in America. You can't, that doesn't work like that. You have to treat all apps, kind of equally. We can't start policing and charging for on an app by app basis, because then the concept of the internet kind of breaks. So Anyway, this South Korean internet service providers are suing Netflix over the cost for traffic surges from hit shows after a court said Netflix should reasonably pay internet service providers for network usage. And that's the problem when you have judges who don't understand tech and they start making rulings that could cause real problems down the line for the internet as a protocol. So it says South Korean internet service providers, SK, has sued Netflix to pay the costs, and the move comes after Seoul court said Netflix should reasonably give something in return to the internet service provider for network usage, and multiple South Korean lawmakers have spoken out against content providers who do not pay for network usage despite generating explosive traffic. Netflix said it will review SK's claims and seek dialogue and explore ways in the meantime to work with SK to ensure customers are not affected. The popularity of the hit series Squid Game and other offerings have underscored Netflix's status as the country's second largest data traffic generator after Google's YouTube. But the two are the only ones to not pay network usage fees, which other content providers such as Amazon, Apple, and Facebook are paying, SK said. Netflix's data traffic handled by SK jumped 24 times from 2018 to September. And SK said, riding on the success of several Netflix productions from Korea, including Squid Game, SK Broadband said it lodged a lawsuit against Netflix for it to pay for using SK's network since Netflix began using SK's dedicated line in 2018. Last year, Netflix had brought its own lawsuit on whether it had any obligation to pay SK for network usage, arguing Netflix's duty ends when creating content and leaving it accessible. It said SK's expenses were incurred while fulfilling its contractual obligations to its internet users, and delivering in the internet world is free of charge as a principle, according to court documents. That's exactly right. That's the whole principle of the internet.
Well, there was a lawsuit between Verizon and Netflix, remember, a few years back, and I think they settled because there are actual network costs to all that capacity, and I think Netflix ended up paying Verizon something, so beyond the net neutrality argument.
The Seoul Central District Court ruled against Netflix in June, saying that SK is seen as providing a service provided at a cost, and it's reasonable for Netflix to be obligated to provide something in return for the service. SK estimated the network usage fee Netflix needed to pay was about $22.9 million in 2020 alone. Netflix has appealed against the ruling. Court records showed, with fresh proceedings to start in late December. Netflix said in a statement on Wednesday that it contributed to the creation of about 16,000 jobs in Korea, stemming from about 770 billion won in investments, as well as economic effect of about 5.6 trillion won. Ruling party lawmaker Kim Sang-hee said on Wednesday that out of South Korea's top 10 data traffic generators, 78.5% of the traffic came from foreign content providers, up from 73.1% a year earlier. With Google, YouTube, and Netflix that account for the majority, turning a blind eye to network usage fees. In the United States, Netflix has been paying a fee to broadband provider Comcast for over 7 years for faster streaming speeds. Okay. Got to be careful with that shit. That could break the whole internet. The next one is a wild one from Axios. LinkedIn blocks the profiles of several U.S. journalists in China. And yes, I know what you're asking. LinkedIn works in China? Yeah, I know. That's a little surprising. They're basically the only American tech company that operates in China. But as you are thinking to yourself, gee, I bet LinkedIn has to agree to do whatever the CCP asks without hesitation and without reason, on demand. Yes, of course, and they're happy to do that because they want that cheddar. They want to grab that bag. That big juicy market over there in China. Yeah, they're all up for that, but you got to do it the CCP's way. They're running the show over there. It's their little casino over there. They're calling the shots. If you don't like it, you could disappear. Your CEO could disappear. Hey, does your CEO
And
like?
LinkedIn's important to China as well for exports and B2B sales and marketing. So, China really wants LinkedIn there as well because
Yeah.
it helps them
Yep.
with their supply chain and reaching out and stuff.
Yes. So it is strategically valuable for China to have it there. It's kind of unique in that way, as Evan was just making the point. And so LinkedIn is kind of blessed in that China actually wants this U.S. tech company there because it's a really incredibly valuable kind of networking tool. And for expertise, China is obsessed with recruiting all of the top talent from around the world to come work in China, especially if you know anything about 6G at the moment. Oh boy, would they love you to come work in China. How about 10x your current salary? You work where? How much are you making? That's nice. How about 10x?
And it's companies Huawei can market to all the executives around the world. They're important reasons
Right.
for China.
Oh, China has been into this intellect. I mean, they are all about finding the experts in every category and getting them into China because it's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. You get the smartest people on the planet.
There's a lot of evidence that state actors are using LinkedIn to recruit spies and all kinds of shenanigans around.
That too. Oh, you work at a company that we want to know everything about? You have a lot of access? How would you like to make an extra $5 million a year? Yeah, listen, we just need you to insert this file on your laptop. Cool? We done? Great. The digital yuan's in the mail. So, yeah, of course they want LinkedIn there. But they also don't want anybody on LinkedIn who's saying anything negative about China or the CCP or Tiananmen Square or any of that stuff. So, back to the story, LinkedIn blocked the profiles of several US journalists from LinkedIn's China-based platform this week, citing quote unquote prohibited content. And then the person who wrote this article, Bethany Allen at Axios, says that her account was also affected. LinkedIn is one of the only large American social media platforms to agree to the Chinese government's demands to censor content and is tasking its own employees with restricting what users in China can see. If LinkedIn's behavior is normalized, it sends a message to companies across the globe that it is business as usual to enforce Beijing censorship's demands globally, says PEN America CEO Susan Nozzle in a statement. This is a flashing red light that unless big tech company firms like LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft, stand up to censorship, free speech worldwide will suffer. LinkedIn's customer service sent an email on September 27th to the author of this article stating that due to quote-unquote prohibited content in the summary section of her profile, the company was blocking her profile being viewable in China. Melissa Chan, a former China correspondent who now works as a journalist in Berlin, posted on Twitter that she also received a similar email the next day on September 28th. Greg Bruno, the author of a book about China's soft power push against the Tibetans, also posted on Twitter the next day on September 20th that he also received an email from LinkedIn. And in that email, it cited that the publications section of his profile in which the only publication listed is his book. The LinkedIn profiles of numerous academics, researchers, government employees, and others around the world have been affected in recent months. We're a global platform that respects the laws that apply to us, including adhering to Chinese government regulations for our localized versions of LinkedIn in China, LinkedIn told the author of this article in a statement. For members whose profiles visibility is limited within China, their profiles are still visible across the rest of the globe where LinkedIn is available. But LinkedIn did not respond to questions from the author of this article about which content specifically was considered prohibited. And there's a very simple reason for that, because LinkedIn doesn't know. And LinkedIn doesn't care. They're just doing what Uncle G said.
So Tyler, this is Vinay. So if you're in China and you want to open a LinkedIn account, you cannot do it through LinkedIn.com. You have to do it through LinkedIn.cn. So this stuff has been a firewalling between the two networks has been going on since 2019. And even last year in 2020 and in 2019, I personally know of people who were not able to connect across the two networks. And because I had a LinkedIn.cn account, which got kicked out. I mean, which got deleted. So this has been going on since 2019. It's funny that now it's come to the front page news, right? But that I think is a lot because in the last 6 months or last 4 months, because of all the tech crackdowns and all the other stuff that's going on, more journalists are writing critical articles of China, and therefore there's greater scrutiny on this. But this has been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah, as the article says, there's this crazy game with tech companies that want to play in China. It says the Chinese government has long pushed U.S. internet companies to censor in order to remain in China's huge market, but many U.S. companies initially refused. As a result, the websites of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram have long been blocked in China. Although Facebook was willing to do whatever China wanted, and comply, as LinkedIn is doing with whatever China wants, but China just didn't ultimately want Facebook in there. They wanted their own version of Facebook, essentially. Same with Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. So it says in February 2014, LinkedIn agreed to China's demands for a filtered version of its professional networking platform, and in exchange, LinkedIn became one of the few U.S. social media companies with significant operations there. In 2019, LinkedIn had 44 million users in China, making it LinkedIn's third largest user base after the US, at 150 million users, and India with 52 million users. In March of this year, China's internet regulators pushed LinkedIn for failing to censor political content on its China-based platform, suspending new signups for a month and requiring the company to submit a self-review to the authorities. 3 months later, by the way, that's an interesting move right there. So China felt that LinkedIn wasn't removing the content that China had asked them to remove. China expressed its authority by suspending new signups for a month. Now, this is interesting for two reasons. Because America is trying to figure out how to force Facebook to be a good actor. Could America do the same and say, hey, Facebook, until you fix your problem on Instagram, no more new young ladies are going to be able to create new accounts?
Yes. By the way, Tyler, American Express and MasterCard won't be allowed to issue credit cards till they fix their problem in India.
Correct.
New cards,
It's
remember?
very similar in India with MasterCard, where India told MasterCard, you fix the data storing issue, and you can no longer create new accounts until you fix the issue. But here's the other question, is from a technical basis, how could the country be given the keys to enforce that? You see what I'm saying? So we need a system admin to answer that question.
Tyler, couldn't
Yes.
they take a snapshot of point in time and then charge them back if they don't comply?
Yeah, you could fine them, but ultimately, I think you're going to want to have your keys you want to be able to take the keys to the car away and to be able to express your authority. So I imagine that was part of the conditions of setting up there is ultimately we've got a shiny red button over here over at CCP headquarters to turn you off or to freeze new accounts. And that in itself is a really interesting thought. And they're using it. They froze their accounts because they weren't complying. And now because we talked, the first story of the day was this Senate hearing with Facebook, and Facebook's all very hot under the collar yet again with Facebook and how, it's bad for users and blah, blah, blah. And you need to fix this or else. And, next year you'll come back and we'll tell you again, you got to fix it or else. So what if there was an off switch where the government could be like, hey, we don't like how it's going over there. We're hitting the pause button on all new accounts until you fix the issue. Come back next month and show us that you fixed the issue. That's what China did. So that's efficient as all hell. That's just
I mean, the U.S.
wildly efficient.
technically can do that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, under certain circumstances, the U.S. government could do that. It's just we have to work through the courts. We can't. We don't have an authoritarian government that can right now, but we don't have one that can come in and just without any process. Like that's the efficient part there, right? Is that there's no process. Someone can just decide and do it. In the US, like say, like our obscenity laws and things like that. So if there's something that triggers it, then you have to make your way, like someone can act, and then you make your way through the court system, figuring out if the action was correct or not, etc. And the biggest issue, though, is that companies often will get injunctive relief if it's not blatant, which means if you say, like if say the FCC says you are no longer to use, interstate wires, if unless you fix this problem, that's pretty much how they would do it. They can't say continue operating but hold your accounts or whatever. That's what they would say is you can't use the interstate wire system, which means they couldn't actually do anything. But they would say, okay, you do this, then the Facebook would then immediately go to court, filing for both a temporary and then doing more stuff to get a permanent injunction to stop the government from actually acting on that, stop them from preventing them from using the wires. Then it goes to court. So the whole process it could be expedited on some level, or sorry, expedited on some level, but for the most part, it's just a much longer process. So we do technically have a process for that. It's just not like unless it's national emergency or state emergency or whatever, there isn't a way like that to stop it.
And so, but what's interesting is the very next headline from Bloomberg. Nigerian President Buhari says a 4-month ban on Twitter will be lifted on condition it is used for business and positive engagements. No, which means what? No more talking. Hey, what are you tweeting about? This platform's just for business and positive engagements. What are you doing? What are you doing? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of Twitterland here in Nigeria, hear ye. This is henceforth exclusively for business and positive engagements. How the hell's that going to work exactly? No more negative engagements, no more non-business, no more showing your fucking breakfast, Dave.
The most important thing
This
I
is
think
about
you want.
business and positive engagement. Stop being a Debbie Downer on your Twitter. This is about positive engagements here on Twitter. This is coming from the the president of Nigeria. Twitter will, they're going to end the 4-month ban on Twitter. And it'll be lifted on the condition that Twitter's used for business, not your cereal, not taking photos of your dinner, and positive engagements. No more negative engagements, Dave. You and all your negative
Yeah.
tweets. None of
Well,
that.
considering it's Nigerian Independence Day as well, I think one of the main things was secession. So there's a lot of people talking about that on Twitter, especially since EndSARS, which was 20 days from today in October, so October 20th, last year. And so there was a lot of talk, and especially on Clubhouse as well. There's a lot of those rooms that go on and people talking about splitting up Nigeria, and there's just this big dissension sort of thing. Like I wouldn't say it's big, but those are the loudest people that are usually on Twitter, and even in the Twitter spaces as well, like with people that actually use VPN. So it doesn't really affect many people, but it's interesting. I want to see how this goes.
It says Nigerian president ordered a ban on Twitter to be lifted on condition that the social media platform is used for business and positive engagements. Now, this gets very interesting as well. What if countries like Nigeria, who recently tried to ban Twitter and found out that it was actually quite difficult to do so because he didn't have his little dashboard like Uncle Xi does over there in Beijing, where he shut down signups for LinkedIn for 1 month, right? And like India did with MasterCard, where they shut down all new signups for MasterCard in India. Nigeria said, we're banning Twitter, and then realized, shit, we don't have a button to actually stop it. We're just going to brutalize people we catch using it. Good luck with that. So perhaps in the future, countries will tell big apps. India could tell Twitter, hey, Twitter, yeah, we've been thinking. We want you to make us a little dashboard where we can shut your shit down with one click. give us the keys to turn your whole platform on and off at will, and also to turn off new signups, so we can leave the platform on and we can just turn off new signups as a stage 1 punishment, and other possible stages of punishment, and ultimately just turn the whole bloody thing off, in the case that
I
there's a
mean,
revolution.
I think there might be some value for that in Western democracies. I mean, I think France has something like that where you can't use social media for a few days before or after election. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could
Yeah,
see some value in that feature.
one of the main things also, like that was actually a really good point, because another point was the elections were tampered with by Russia, I believe. Like there were reports of that as well. So um, the government doesn't really know what to do in certain situations. So it's necessary to have a reign of these things, because people don't know whether they're being used or not. And, citizens are just citizens at the end of the day. They say what they say and they see what they see. They don't think about the global implications of what they're doing. And they shouldn't need to, but at the same time, the government has to, right? So, yeah, the world stage is a big place, isn't it? So we'll see what happens.
And there is a problem which needs to be solved, which Evan also mentioned, like in India also. In a lot of elections, there are tweeters flood from Pakistan and neighboring countries, which basically do not have any interest and foot on ground, but they affect the whole process of election there. They swing a lot with all the fake news being peddled in. So there is a angle of authoritarianism, but there is an angle, a significant angle of outside party meddling into the affairs.
So I'm wondering if Russia might soon, like recently, some countries are forcing them to put actual physical employees on the ground as their means of coercion. This is a far better solution. You don't have to put people on the ground here. You just have to give us the keys to shut this thing down.
The global nation of the internet, right, or continent, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of people and a lot of actors, and we've seen even through just the past 2 weeks of tech news how much people from other countries mess up with other people's elections and stuff like that.
Yep.
Trying to keep it PC, but yeah.
Yeah. Super interesting thought here. Okay. So the next one is VentureBeat has an article. The headline reads, Interviews with Women Pioneers of AI Ethics Teams on Whether Ethical AI Work is Possible at Big Tech and How to Set These Teams to Be Successful. I think a lot of people will find that one kind of interesting, so we're tweeting that one out to the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. And Wired has one headline here that says, Investigation finds 45 criminal cases that cite Google geolocation data obtained via geofence warrant to place suspects inside Capitol during January 6 riots. Let's have a looky-loo at this one. A court document suggests the FBI has been using controversial geofence search warrants at a scale not publicly seen before, collecting account information and location data on hundreds of devices inside the Capitol during the deadly invasion by right-wing mob on January 6th. While Google receives over 10,000 geofence warrants for location data in the U.S. each year, those covering the Capitol breach appear to have been particularly productive, apparently enabling the FBI to build a large searchable database in its hunt for the rioters. Geofence warrants are intended to locate anyone in a given area using digital services. Google has been the target for many geofence warrants because its location technologies, which leverage GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth signals to pinpoint a phone within a few yards, are powerful and widely used. Indeed, as it says, investigators can and do serve warrants on phone companies because, as it says, however, cell phone towers can only locate phones within about 3/4 of a mile. While court documents suggest that the FBI collected cell tower records for thousands of devices that were inside the Capitol during the riot, Google's data offers a much higher degree of accuracy than even the cell phone towers because your device has Bluetooth, which has even a much shorter range, and it has Wi-Fi. And if your phone touched any Wi-Fi router, then that Wi-Fi router knows where you were And if you've got multiple Wi-Fi routers, they can triangulate you very accurately, even far better than the cell phone towers can. And that's why they're doing geofence search warrants from Google, because Google has the most accurate data, and they can pinpoint you actually at the Capitol at the moment of
How
the
do
crime.
you define contact the network? Do you have to log on, or it just has to
No,
recognize your
recognize.
phone? Oh, cool.
The use of geofence search warrants was first reported by the Washington Post, and others have previously noted specific instances of investigations that use Google geolocation data, but Wired has found 45 federal criminal cases that cite Google geolocation data to place suspects inside the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, including at least 6 where the identity of the suspect appears to have been unknown to the FBI prior to the geofence warrant. One of these involved a serving Chicago police officer. Here's the quote: "I'm terribly concerned about the potential for misuse of that technology," says Ari Waldman, a professor of law and computer science at Northeastern University. "Even if I think staging a coup against a democratic government is abhorrent, it doesn't mean that constitutional privacy protections shouldn't be in place. In fact, court documents refer to 2 geofence warrants relating to the January 6th, one of which, a governing filing seems to say, was served even as the riot was raging. They were immediately sealed and are unlikely to be made public for years. However, a close reading of hundreds of court filings reveal that both the secretive geofence warrants and further Google-focused geolocation warrants delivered a wealth of information about dozens of suspects. Geofence warrants are essentially a fishing expedition. Investigators know roughly where and when a crime was committed and want to find out who might have been there at the time. As this would normally include innocent people and bystanders, Google reviews law enforcement to go through a 3-step process to access that information."
Tyler, didn't you cover a case where a gentleman was riding his bike at the scene of a crime and then he got called in 2 or 3 years later because of this?
I'm sure that happens very regularly. I mean, when there's this is just the normal order of policing in America in 2021. And by the way, we could tell even crazier stories of what happens in China, because they already know where you are at all times. They don't need to subpoena this data. So in the case of policing today, when there's any kind of crime and they're trying to figure out who's involved, this is just regular hygiene. This is just happening all the time. It's like, oh, crime happened at location X at time Y. Call the phone companies, call Google, subpoena the data. We need we need to know all the devices that were at this location at this time. Thank you very much. This is just how it's done.
So what you're saying is that Gary Hart will be the last politician to challenge the media with "Catch me if you can"?
Ooh.
I think I'm the only one who remembers that reference.
I do too.
I do too.
Oh, good. We're old.
Well,
Yes.
if it's
Yep.
so great, why haven't we released a list of Epstein's
Yeah.
partners and buddies?
Well, now you know why he had an island.
You have an island, Tyler, right?
Now you know
People
why
with
I have
islands
an
don't
island.
throw stones.
Yeah, having an island with out of the range of cell phone towers has its advantages. So, a geofence warrant initially seeks to anonymize list of device tracking within a specific area at a specific time. Investigators then use that list to focus on tracks that look suspicious and can ask Google to widen the time or geofence boundaries on those devices. Finally, investigators can go back to Google to unmask the real name, email, phone number, and other information of just a few of the account holders. Courts can and have, albeit very rarely, denied geofence warrant requests that are overly broad. But where a typical geofencing fishing expedition might catch only 1 or 2 suspects, the January 6th investigation appears to have landed a netful. This is all just very obvious stuff about how they're catching the people at the Capitol. And I mean, for geeks who understand tech, when the January 6th was occurring, this was exactly what was going through our minds. Do you idiots not know that your devices are in your pocket are going to get you caught? Do you not know this?
I wonder.
Go ahead.
That was precisely the thought screaming in my head as they were, rioting at the Capitol.
So, more contemporary reference. Matt Gaetz didn't sleep well last night.
So, anyway, I'll share the article for those who want to do more. I only read the first little bit of that one from Wired and the Capitol riots. So that one goes to the Tech News Twitter account. And next up,
I'm sorry to
yes,
interrupt.
go ahead.
You seem it didn't be tweeted from the beginning until the last article.
I'm sorry.
Under the Tech News Around the World Twitter account, when you said you're gonna tweet it,
Which one?
I did. From the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
You want the Facebook, Instagram
No,
one?
after the MA's video, the Justin Taylor's, and then you tweeted the for your iPhone location data, then and the Evans.
Yes. Tell me which one you want, and I'll make sure it's there. Which one do you want?
And for example, the LinkedIn
You want
China.
the LinkedIn one? Okay, here it goes.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So there it goes.
But I can see the Facebook one and a couple of the other tweets that you've done.
Yeah. When we're doing the top stories, as we've been doing for the last hour, I don't tweet them. When we now get into the tweets that everyone sent in, I do tweet them.
Oh, thank you. Because you said you're going to tweet it. I didn't see the notification. Thank you.
Sure. So next up is a whole bunch of fundraisings. Cred Avenue, an online marketplace for companies seeking loans, raises $90 million. Active Surgical, which makes hardware agnostic software for minimally invasive surgical systems, raises $45 million. Forta, a security service aimed at smart contracts being spun out by a blockchain cybersecurity startup, raises $23 million. Sweden's Cinch acquires Pathfire, a cloud-based email provider, for $1.9 billion in cash and stock. And startups in Latin America raised a record $6.5 billion in the first half of 2021, up from $4 billion for all of 2020. So they're on track to double 2020 in 2021, which is great. And Intel unveils a neuro-linguistic computing chip, a second-generation neuromorphic computing chip, and an open-source framework for developing neuro-inspired applications. And they believe these neuromorphic computing chips are, they're wild. This is like truly crazy stuff. So I'm going to share.
I don't know if Cammy's here, but she was talking about this yesterday, and I think she was asleep last night.
I just tweeted that one out. So that's the popular headlines that the pedestrians are sharing on Twitter at the moment. And so now we can get into the fun tweets that all of us here on stage and in the audience have been sharing since we met last time, like this one that Poppy shares from about an autonomous robot tank. It's like a very childlike sized tank. It looks like somebody put a tank in a shrinking machine and shrunk a tank down to the size of a dog, like a large dog. And so this autonomous tank robot may have already killed people. Here's how the weapons could be more destabilizing than nukes is the article. And what's going on here, Twitter? Why do you think I'm not logged in here? Okay, here we go. Okay, there it goes. Tweeted that one out. You got to see this cute little miniature tank. And I recall this photo. This is the Israeli autonomous robot tank that they're planning to use at the borders. And it's wild. And the headline says this autonomous robot may have already killed people. The next one, also from Poppy, says Alibaba is developing and testing its level 4 autonomous truck. Really, nobody's at true level 4 yet, but they're claiming level 4. Level 4 is good enough to operate on public roads. And so Alibaba is developing and testing its level 4 autonomous truck for city logistics based on the large-scale application of its last-mile logistics vehicle, according to company executive. And you got to go to the Twitter account to see this Alibaba's L4 autonomous truck for delivery. It's gorgeous. This is the most beautiful one I've seen, and we've seen a lot of these. And this vehicle format, again, it looks like a childlike truck, not a truck, but a van. It looks like a tiny van the size of a small horse, like a pony. And it's a self-driving little delivery vehicle filled with a bunch of little deliveries and packages, and it can drive on sidewalks. And it can drive right up to your house, scan your face, open its door, get your package. Have a great day, sir. Thank you for using Alibaba. So it's what a beautiful looking autonomous vehicle that is. Next one is more photos of these devices and a different headline. It says Alibaba's self-driving robots deliver over 1 million orders. Alibaba's self-driving robots, the ones I just was talking about, there's a new article about those same ones. It's the same vehicle from different angles, and it shows a warehouse full of these autonomous pony-sized four-wheeled delivery vehicles. And the headline is that Alibaba's self-driving robots deliver over 1 million orders. So it's already happening, y'all. They've already replaced the humans from doing the last mile deliveries because they've done over 1 million orders already. Checkmate. Checkmate. You want to unionize? How about you just go home and we won't send you any more job opportunities anymore? Oh, you want to get paid more? How about zero? How's zero sound? Does zero sound good? How about you turn off that app, throw away your phone, and forget you ever heard of us? We're done with you. It's been fun. Thank you for filling in for the robots while we got them underway. We'll take it from here. It's been fun. It's been real. You learn to plant vegetables or you're going to starve to death. Ta-ta.
Only one problem with that is who's going to buy the products?
The people who have jobs.
Yep, but I mean, on macro,
Your point is the automation is going to replace a lot of people. It is. Tons of people.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of geeks who don't believe that yet, who haven't carefully considered all the factors that we do in this room every day. Based on everything we're seeing every day, it's going to replace a shit ton of people, like a whole lot of them.
It's going to be pitchforks really soon for those of us with jobs.
So what I'm encouraging is we need to start introducing the critical narrative that these jobless people who are soon to be evicted out of their apartments because they can't pay next month's rent, and we're talking millions of people this month. Millions. Now. Not in some imaginary future. Effing now. We've read the headlines in recent days. Millions of people this month. Not next quarter, not next year, this month. These people can't afford rent. They're facing evictions. Millions of people in America alone. Now, these people 100 years ago would have known how to farm. But because we've industrialized and living in cities, these people were never taught how to farm. They don't know, they've never grown anything. And that's very unfortunate because now they don't know how to feed themselves. And I think that's what these millions and millions, I mean, we're talking lots of millions, tens of millions of people that are going to become unemployable, basically, are going to need to be self-sufficient rather than be dependent on the generosity of the government that can't support them. They're going to need to become self-sufficient, and they're not going to be employable. So they need to self-employ somehow. And as a bare minimum, I think schools very quickly need to start teaching farming. And I think
hydroponic farms,
to be eligible for government assistance of any kind, you're going to need to go take a class on farming.
I would add all trades, so farming,
All trade,
plumbing, AC
Metal
installation,
work,
solar panel, because
yeah,
robot
it's
repair.
really the trades. It's farming
batteries.
is one of those, but we don't teach any of that anymore at scale. So it's
Yeah,
really important
no,
to.
you can literally learn how to do hydroponic and vertical farming like pretty fairly easily. Like
Yeah,
there's so many
you can.
videos on YouTube, and then you get your solar panels, and you have your generator if you need it, and yeah, you can have an ecosystem. The only problem that I see is the waterways, because I know
Yep.
at least here we're not allowed to collect water, so
Yep.
there's gonna have to be a thing with that.
Yep. Well, there's air.
So the hippies were right.
Yeah. More so the Amish, but yes, your point about water is that talk to Vinay. Vinay is quite well connected with these atmospheric water collectors that are becoming a very real thing now. You can get these 50-liter, hydro water generating schemes that they're quite economical. You could have a decent. You can get a 200 liter per day. You could do well with 200 liters per day. That'll service most houses.
There's actually water to power solutions that I'm kicking around right now. I'm actually going to go found a new company probably next week focused on AWG and harvesting water.
So the next one is kind of related. From Tesla secures biggest ever order, 6 gigawatt hours for a megapack batteries in the United States. The question is where? Which? Ooh, this could be a fun Tech News Jeopardy. Leading American renewable energy company Verizon has just made a 2 gigawatts 6 gigawatt hour order for Tesla Megapack battery units in the US, believed to be the largest single battery storage order in the world. The order is designed to support the growing of utility-scale solar and storage installations for Verizon, which was created just 1 month ago through the combination of Capital Dynamics US Clean Energy Infrastructure Team and the Verizon Asset Management. The company is now 100% owned by an investor group comprised of APG, a particular state's teacher retirement system, Tech News Jeopardy coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the order comes just days after Tesla and French renewable energy developer Neoen announced that the case of the fire in the 2 megapacks unit in Victoria in July has been identified and the problem rectified, and they now had regulatory approval to commission the 300 megawatt, 450 megawatt hour Victorian big battery. And to put the single order in context, Australia currently has 7 operating big batteries in its main grid with total storage of just over 500 megawatt hours. And they say this is looking at creating a standalone clean energy platform of 4.5 gigawatts of operating under construction and late stage development solar and battery storage projects. And it will utilize Tesla Megapack master supply agreement to build out its Falcon portfolio. Consisting of Verizon is the forefront of where planning. Okay, so the question is, where is this? Where are they going to put this? Which city municipality is going to go into lithium battery storage? It appears to be California because it's according to the September 2020 planning, Falcon consists of 9 battery storage projects in California, which will begin coming online in the early middle of 2022. I guess it's California because also one of the other investors is the California Teachers Union. So looks like it's California. So tweeting that one out. Thank you, Poppy. The next one is also related to Tesla and this whole energy thing. It says, the headline says, it's from Top Gear. It says, watch out Tesla. The Lucid Air is finally in production. And that means it's time to compare the Tesla and the Lucid Air. Now that Lucid Air has rolled off the assembly line, they're going to start doing a little dipstick measuring contest and see who's got better performance and whatnot. So good. We need more competition in that space. Keep the prices down. And we covered the LinkedIn in China brouhaha. And then somebody sent in this one from Vinay, did you send in this one about the Philippines taxman probes 250 social media stars? Who was this? This is a really interesting one. Vinay, I'm pretty sure this was you. It was you.
Tyler, can we spend some time on the autonomous robot thing?
In a
Because
minute.
I have a
Yeah,
slightly
in a minute. So Vinay, did you send in this
Yeah,
South China?
I did.
Yes.
I did. Sorry, I was trying to get off Bluetooth. Yeah, it's interesting. The Philippines taxman is going to go after the top social media influencers in the country for all the sponsorships, the freebies, the in kind, and the money that they're making off social media and make it taxable income because their tax revenues are down because of the pandemic. So they are
Yes.
going after them in a big way, the top 300.
Yeah. The Philippines is of all the, a lot of countries make money from tourism. Philippines, most of all, statistically, makes the largest percentage of is the most dependent on tourism for its economy, which is gone. So they have the lowest tax collection of anybody on a percentage basis this year because their biggest, one of their biggest industries gone this year, which is tourism. So now they're going to tax. It says the Philippines taxman probes 250 social media stars seeking revenue for COVID-19 battered economy. They've launched the investigation into the 250 social media stars, clarifying their tax obligations and warning them that freebies received in return for promotional services are also liable to tax. As it seeks to revive the COVID battered economy, Manila also plans to raise taxes on offshore gaming companies, but critics say a focus on the country's billionaires would be more bountiful. Indeed, it would. I think going after TikTok influencers might not get you as much as you hope it will.
Hey,
But,
Tyler,
but the thing,
related to
but
this,
sorry.
oh, go ahead, Vinay.
Sorry, I was just saying, but all it takes is one country to start this. And then, like many other things,
Yep.
others are going to start getting ideas. We can do this as well. Let's go after it, right?
My God,
We've seen this happen in so many other things.
if Russia starts taxing the Russian Instagram, models, oh my Lord, Instagram in Russia is a very big thing with these, Russian ladies who try and look very, Instagrammable. And my goodness, are they trying to do all of these sponsorship deals that Russia could double its GDP if they start taxing those Instagram influencers. So
Hey, Tyler,
yes.
related to this, their Philippines government's actually going to start taxing the Axie Infinity crypto game
Oh,
as well.
really?
Yeah, so I sent in that article
That's funny
on
because
as well.
Axie just put out a headline last week that they just passed $2 billion in sales.
Right, so they're going to tax all the people now in the Philippines that
And
are playing
yeah,
it.
I can imagine how that played out. That headline came across somebody's news feed, and the tax collector was like, "Hang on a second, you sold how much of some kind of commodity, some kind of asset, of some digital asset of $2 billion worth of what? Where is our tax?" And where is this Axie Infinity company based? And they looked it up and they're like, "Oh, you're based where?" Which is a very good question. We had somebody in here from Axie Infinity?
It's based in Vietnam.
Ah, that would explain it. Okay. So next up is we got the Philippines tax one. The next one is there's a multi-billion-dollar market for your phone's location data. We covered that one. Thank you. And BB sends in this one from Reuters. What is behind China's power crunch? We've been wanting to know ourselves. China is in the grip of a power crunch as coal supply shortages combined with strong power demand from manufacturers, industry, and households push coal prices to record highs and trigger widespread curbs on usage. Climate watchers have been at pains to say Beijing's tougher environmental curbs are not to blame for the current energy crunch. Indeed, China has focused on cutting power consumption, not coal output. Instead, China's heavily controlled power pricing system prevents its generators from passing on their soaring coal costs to customers, leaving them with no choice but to suffer losses or reduce output. How long has there been a power supply problem in China? China has often struggled to balance supply and demand, with central planners often underestimating demand growth, leaving many provinces at risk of power cuts during the summer and winter peak consumption seasons. This year, a perfect storm of factors, including some coal supply disruptions and surging demand from industries and households, have caused power shortages throughout the country. However, the country's rigid pricing system is seen as a major culprit. One of China's worst power supply crises took place in the winter of 2010 and 11, when fierce snowstorms disrupted coal supplies and damaged power transmission infrastructure. However, power plants, concerned about their profitability, made the shortages worse by running down their stockpiles in order to prolong price negotiations with coal suppliers. Oh, that's nice. Though China has since allowed power tariffs to fluctuate if coal costs reach a certain level, struggling generators are still not at liberty to raise prices in a timely manner in order to avoid losses. Some policymakers warned in 2019 that China needed to build more coal-fired power plants in order to head off power shortage risks over 2021 to 2025 period, but existing generation capacity has remained heavily underutilized, suggesting that many plants lack the economic incentives to go back to boost output. The recent shortages have come about despite Beijing's efforts to curb heavy industrial power usage. Provincial authorities in Inner Mongolia and Guangdong have both ordered industries, including energy-intensive aluminum smelters, to reduce electricity use. However, it has revealed that 10 provinces and regions, including major coal producers like Inner Mongolia, had still failed to meet existing energy efficiency targets in the first half, largely as a result of post-lockdown recovery that analysts say relied on energy-intensive heavy industry. But despite the curbs, China's total power generation through August 2021 was still 10% greater than the same period in 2020 and nearly 15% more than the same time in 2019, as utilities across the country cranked up power to meet surging industrial demand. Which industries? What has been Beijing's response to the power crunch? The NDRC said on Friday it will work to resolve the power shortages, but did not provide any specific details. One major near-term challenge for Beijing is its ongoing trade dispute with Australia, the world's second-largest coal exporter, which has greatly curbed coal shipments to China, just as local authorities stepped up safety standards that have slowed down production at China's coal mines following a series of accidents. A senior official in northeast China's Jilin province urged authorities to try and source more coal from Mongolia, Russia, and Indonesia in order to address the supply gap. Another factor is the global shortage of natural gas, as a number of major economies look to stock up on fuel simultaneously following the easing of the COVID-19 restrictions. So there you go.
Nuclear time.
Yeah.
That nuclear power plant, it's not in Western news medias, but it is said early this year in Guangzhou there was a leak. But of course, you won't see
Wow.
yeah. So
Also,
like call for
can we check
help,
the
but
handbrake?
yeah, it's we have some, just like say we have local forums. So sometimes our friends in China or work in China, they will say what's on there. They will have some like a pamphlet or something, or they will tell you, oh, you are gonna out of electricity tonight or something, but you won't see that in the public. So it said there was a leak, but eventually they solved it. So if you want to build more nuclear power plant in China, there have other issues about that.
Okay.
And Tyler, can we check the hand raise? Dr. Danish has got something burning.
Sure we can. Here we go. Dr. Danish, what's up?
Yeah, I want to congratulate him for the room just now. It was fantastic. I got a lot of back channels saying that they are so happy that you're on the show. Thank you, Dr. Danish.
Hey, thanks, Cheryl. No, I was going to mention, Tyler, really, really, really big news. So Merck, their oral antiviral, the news is out. They just put a press release out this morning at 6 a.m. It reduces risk of hospitalization or death by 50%. So
you're saying, wait. So you're saying it's better than ivermectin?
It is. Yeah. So people were fighting for ivermectin for a proposed belief of 1/5 of that or less. Even the data that they had was proving that. And so, except for one study that was then retracted, the rest of the studies showed that even if we were going to have a benefit, we were looking at that. This is 50% reduction in hospitalizations or deaths. It was such a good result that an independent committee reviewed the data and said it would be unethical for us to continue to do phase 3 clinical trial. The data was so positive that they said that, and this is very common, they said that at interim analysis, we need to go for EUA immediately. And what is incredible is that Merck, unlike every other large pharmaceutical company, has really put access at the top of its agenda, and they already have pre-orders ready to go. So this is now coming out, probably expected to be everywhere. This is the new Tamiflu for COVID. I don't want to oversell it. There's still, we're going to see how it does in a very public forum and how it does once it's out there. But for people, I've got to say, this is a unexpected and a very, very huge deal, in my opinion. I would love to hear from others.
So I've got the
This is John.
John, can
Go
I?
ahead,
I want to read the New York Times article that just came out an hour ago about precisely this Merck's experimental oral COVID-19 antiviral drug called Molnupiravir. Holy Jesus! If you Molnupiravir, Molnupiravir. Are we actually all going to be saying this for the next several months? Molnupiravir. Okay, so
they'll have a brand name.
Yeah.
Molnupiravir.
So the drug maker Merck, are they just trying to fuck with this? This is like an IKEA kind of crazy name. This thing, the drug maker.
No,
No,
you
that's what
just
all of
call
them
it
usually
Merck
are.
COVID pill.
All the
Just-
biologics are named with unpronounceable names, and then they get a brand name.
Okay,
just call it Merck COVID pill. Easy.
The drug maker Merck said on Friday that it would seek authorization for the first antiviral pill for COVID after its drug known as Molnupiravir. There it is, Molnupiravir. That's it. That's the Southern California official pronunciation, Molnupiravir.
The thing is, John will tell you that the veer means something, and every single word means something.
So it was shown in a clinical trial to cut the risk of hospitalizations or death in half when given to high-risk people early in their infections. The treatment could become the first in a wave of antiviral pill products, which experts say could offer a powerful new tool in efforts to tame the pandemic, as they could reach more people than the antibody treatments that are being widely used in the United States for similar patients. Here's a quote. I think it will translate into many thousands of lives being saved worldwide, where there's less access to monoclonal antibodies, and in this country too, says Dr. Schaefer, an infectious disease specialist and expert at the antiviral therapy at Stanford University. Late-stage study results of 2 other antiviral pills, one developed by Pfizer and another by Atea Pharmaceuticals and Roche, are expected within the next few months. This will be brilliant if we start getting a lot of these. The Merck drug, which is designed to stop the coronavirus from replicating, is to be taken as 4 capsules twice a day for 5 days. Merck said an independent board of experts monitoring its study data had recommended that a trial be stopped early because the drug's benefit to patients had proved so convincing. And that right there is what the anti-pill people are going to go crazy with right there. The company said that the Food and Drug Administration had agreed with that decision. For the research, the monitors looked at data through early August when the study had enrolled 775 volunteers in the United States and overseas. For volunteers who received the drug, their risk of being hospitalized or dying fell 50% without any concerning side effects. Say what? When was the last time there was a pill that didn't have side effects? So it's a placebo. Compared with those who received placebo pills. Okay, fair enough. Merck said in a news release Merck announced the results in a statement that did not include some detailed data from the trial that experts said would be crucial in determining how the drug will be used. 7% of the volunteers in the group that received the drug were hospitalized, and none of them died, compared with 14% rate of hospitalizations and death including 8 deaths in the group that received the placebos. What? Yeah, well, of course, you're going to die if you took the placebo. Yeah. But the Merck pill's efficacy was lower than that of monoclonal antibody treatments, which mimic antibodies that the immune system generates naturally when fighting the virus. Those drugs have been in high demand recently, but they are expensive, are typically given intravenously, and have proved cumbersome and labor-intensive for hospitals and clinics to administer. Studies have shown that they reduce hospitalizations and deaths 70 to 85% in similar high-risk COVID patients. Okay, John.
Yeah, this drug was initially developed as an anti-influenza drug, and it attacks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it attacks the enzyme critical for replication of the virus. So it doesn't target the spike protein itself. It targets the mechanism of replication, which is highly conserved in viruses in general. And so it's likely to be effective against every existing variant and every future variant. This is a huge game changer. I've been expecting the pandemic to transform into an endemic late spring, early summer next year. I think this is actually going to help make that a reality. In that, if it proves out to be as effective and safe as the initial study shows, it is a huge game changer with a couple more in the pipeline, as that article you read mentioned. There are a couple more similar drugs targeting similar mechanisms, which would be variant independent. And huge game changers. The problem with the existing therapy is the monoclonal antibodies have to be given really early, and it's expensive and IV, and it's taxing the healthcare system because of the infusion of an IV drug. This is oral. It's 1/3 the cost. The cost up front implications are huge because you want to give it as early as possible. So a lot of people are going to get it who don't need it at $700 a course of treatment. But if that just prevents 5 or 10% of them from ending up in the hospital, the payback is huge, even at $700 a pop. And the one caveat is safe and effective. You have to map it back to the sample size. They stopped the study for the reasons that Danish described, because it would be unethical to continue giving people a placebo when we know how effective this drug is already. What we don't know is the side effect profile when you give it to 10,000, 100,000, a million, 3 million people, because it will likely be given to millions of people before the end of the year, based upon a study of 750 people. So you can anticipate that some people might have a genetic predisposition or a pharmacogenomic, that is the kinetics of the drug metabolism variant, that will lead to side effects undetected in those first 750 people before they stop the study for ethical reasons, good ethical reasons. But make no mistake, this is a big game changer. One of the unintended consequences of this is that the anti-vax community is going to say, see, we don't need the vaccine. We can just take another course of this drug or one of the other ones soon to be out of their clinical trials. So there will be a little bit of a downside risk, but overall, this is spectacular news.
And John, doesn't this also open up the field of other, viral replication cessation type products or mitigation type products, things that stop viral
Absolutely.
replication?
Yeah, this is going to be an infusion of cash, of capital into drugs with similar mechanisms, particularly because the big problem with the Spanish flu 100 years ago, the big problem with COVID, is the mutation into variants that escape the vaccines, whereas these attack a very highly and the spike protein, for example, has shown that it can mutate in a million different ways, and to still be effective, and yet stopping replication is a different tactic, which spans past and future variants pretty consistently. So it is a big shot in the arm for this approach to antivirals.
Question: this wouldn't require an EUA, or would it?
It would
It's gonna
require
it's
an EUA.
it's gonna get an EUA very quickly. I'm sure they're scaling production as we speak in a big way, anticipating a demand they won't be able to catch up with globally for quite some time.
Tyler, did you get the DM that I
Yes. So
sent you?
Cheryl just shared one from NASDAQ. It says Japan's Shionogi to make 1 million doses of new COVID-19 treatment by early 2022. Japan's Shionogi said on Wednesday it plans to make at least 1 million doses of a new antiviral treatment for COVID-19 for domestic use only by March 2022. The company plans to submit the drug, a protease inhibitor known as S217622, for regulatory approval in Japan by the end of the year, chief executive said at the briefing. It started phase 2 and 3 trials of the drug in Japan on Monday. The company is also planning global late-stage trials ahead of its filing in the US and Europe. The drug can be taken in pill form and is intended for patients in the
This
early
is huge.
stages of COVID-19, compared with antibody
The thing,
treatments that have been
the
infused
thing
by
that
medical
people don't.
staff. Yeah.
The thing that doesn't really get mentioned is the impact on the supply chain, on vials, on glasses, on needles, so a pill form where you don't need some kind of vessel to transport it or deliver it is huge. And, this is the best news I've heard probably in 500 days.
I just want to
Tyler,
add that meanwhile, sorry if I can just add quickly. Meanwhile, in Canada, people are taking such large doses of ivermectin that the hospitals are calling the physicians to give them prescriptions of ivermectin so that they don't take ivermectin that's meant for an animal or an aquarium and things like that. So it's really ridiculous. Good to hear that there's actual alternatives.
Tyler, I DM you another one on the nasal
Yes.
vaccine spray.
Shinogi will start clinical trials for a COVID-19 nasal spray vaccine in 2022, the Japanese pharmaceutical company announced Tuesday, paving the way for an inoculation method that would prevent countries lacking medical staff. Shinogi has licensed agreement with Hanavax to develop a nasal spray vaccine using the venture's proprietary drug delivery system. The technology uses a polysaccharide substance to deliver the vaccine through the nose, including immunity in the respiratory system under the agreement signed in July. Shinogi has exclusive rights to develop and market a vaccine based on the technology. Hanavax was spun out of the University of Tokyo. Okay.
Yeah, the one thing I will
Nasal
say,
vaccines will be very helpful because there are localized immune systems in the upper airway. There's localized immune systems in the lining of the gut. And since this is a predominantly respiratory transmitted disease, having an early warning system in the upper respiratory tract that might not be fully activated by an intramuscular or subcutaneous vaccination is a really good thing. My belief all along has been that for these kinds of viruses, we will likely end up seeing a combination of in the end game, a nasal plus a IM or sub-Q vaccination, because they generate very complementary things. If your upper airway recognizes the virus quickly and secretes antibodies that are unique to that, what's called an inflammasome in the upper airway, specifically IgA, as opposed to IgG and IgM, which are the more systemic responses, that could much more rapidly abort the replication of the virus at its portal of entry. So I think this will be a very complementary technology.
Okay.
I had a non-COVID one that I wanted to also share that might be interesting because it's so fascinating. I tweeted it out earlier. Did you see the Microsoft Truvada? So Truvada, just to remind people really quickly, they started collecting patient data. So all these large health systems in the US came together. They can't share data with each other, but somehow, for the good mighty dollar, they came together and combined all of their data without full informed consent of the patients to actually put it into a data set and start selling it. And guess who just invested in that company, Truvada? It was Microsoft. So the company that literally recently has been under fire for all of these cybersecurity issues now has access to a significant portion of the nation. We're talking about double-digit percentage of Americans' healthcare data is now under the in the safe arms of Microsoft. I tweeted it out earlier, Tyler. I honestly can't even believe this right now.
What could go
What a
wrong?
crazy story.
So Vinay just sent in one about a nasal vaccine coming out of India called Bharat Biotech's nasal vaccine results are astonishing. We will conduct a comprehensive study. According to the results of the nasal vaccine made by Bharat Biotech are astonishing. We have noticed that the nasal form of Covaxin brings instant protection and good amount of antibodies right into the nasal cavity where the virus attacks first. This can stop the virus right at its entry point of the human body. If the second dose is intravascular, it may bring sustainable protection. Awesome.
Yay! Looks like the whole COVID thing is gonna be over soon. Yay!
Merck stock is trading at its 52-week high, and it's up about 10%. And Pfizer's down about 1.5%.
I was also looking at Shionogi's stocks just now. It already went up from 5,000 plus to I think 7,000 plus.
Yeah, the
Yen.
Yeah, the danger of playing this space right now is that there are several competitors that are close to the same circuit. Merck was the first to get here, but there's several others, as Cheryl mentioned, one in Japan and a couple in the U.S. So a slight advantage of either cost of production or retail cost or safety profile could obsolete any of the early entrants. But the good news is we've got one good enough to go and more on the way.
Yeah, and what
And
you found with Pfizer though is the government jumps right in and starts purchasing right ahead of time. So even under Trump, they're buying, they're buying and betting on the come that they were going to be able to produce, not only invent but produce and distribute not only the U.S. but across the world. So I think first in really has a huge advantage, like Pfizer did with the vaccines.
Definitely.
there's a SAMS program that's underway. It's basically promoting American manufacturing, and I know that they're hitting really hard right now. We're going to become a member of the program, and so I think you're going to see a lot of domestic production of these therapeutics as well.
Okay. Next up, from Poppy, taking delivery of Australia's first 2022 Tesla Cybertruck. It's been a long time coming, but we've finally got our hands on a 2022 Tesla Cybertruck. Batteries, it looks like a toy. Oh, Jesus Christ. They're playing games. I can tell by the photo. That's not a full-scale truck. Google is using AI to help explore the topics they're searching for. Here's how. Changes are coming to Google search using more AI. Let's see what they're up to here with using AI in search. Can you get medicine for somebody at the pharmacy? It's a simple enough question for humans to understand, says Pandu Nayak, Vice President of Search at Google, but such a query represents the cutting edge of machine comprehension. You and I can see that the questioner is asking if they can fill out a subscription for another person. But until recently, if you typed this question into Google, it would direct you to websites explaining how to fill your prescription. It missed the subtlety that the prescription was for someone else. Can you get medicine for someone at the pharmacy? The key to delivering the right answer, says Google, is AI, which Google is using today to improve its search results. The prescription query was solved in 2019 when Google integrated a machine learning model called BERT into search as part of a new generation of AI language systems known as large language models, the most famous of which is OpenAI's GPT-3. BERT was able to parse the nuances of our prescription query correctly and return the right results. Now in 2021, Google is updating the search tools yet again using another acronymized AI system that BERT's successor called MUM, M-U-M. originally revealed at Google I/O event in May, which we watched together in this room during the live stream, and they showcased Mum. Mum is at least 1,000 times bigger than BERT, says Nyack, and on the same order of magnitude as GPT-3, which has 175 billion parameters. Mum is also multimodal, meaning it processes visual data as well as text. And it's been trained on 75 languages, which allows the system to generalize from languages where there's lots of data, like English, to languages where there's less data, like Hindi, says Nyack. That helps in ensuring that any upgrades it provides are spread across Google's many markets. Nyack speaks of Mum with pride at the latest AI wonderkin trained on Google's labs, blah, 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 blah. So they're going to use Mum in search. Okay, that's great. So the next one is from New Scientist, that AI is helping U.S. Air Force to decide which targets to strike. The U.S. Air Force has used AI as part of its kill chain, the process of gathering intelligence and directing weapons to destroy a target. And the next one's from Bibi from South China Morning Post. A headache for China's game developers as memo details Beijing's red lines. According to the memo seen by South China Morning Post, games are a new art form that must highlight correct values and an accurate understanding of China's history. Oh boy. Uh-oh.
For example, you cannot use the Winnie the Pooh there.
Well, worse than that. Because, according to this, although they could change it in a heartbeat, of course, as they may likely do, new video game approvals dry up in China, as an internal memo shows that developers now have many red lines to avoid. Review of gaming content is getting stricter, and companies will have to stay clear of a long list of red lines if they want approval in the future, memo shows. According to memo seen by the Post, games are a new art form that must highlight correct values and an accurate understanding of China's history and culture. The Chinese government has not announced any new licensed video games for August and September, breaking a tradition of monthly approvals, according to information on a website of gaming watchdog, the National Press and Publication Administration. The halt in approvals reflects Beijing's harsher stance on what constitutes appropriate gaming content, and the regulatory net looks set to tighten, according to memo from the recent internal training course organized by China's state-backed gaming association for members, seen by the South China Morning Post and confirmed by several people familiar with the situation who declined to be identified. I wonder why. Regulatory review of gaming content is getting stricter, and companies will have to stay clear of a long list of red lines if they want their games to be approved in the future. The memo reminds China's gaming studios that video games are no longer apolitical, pure entertainment, but a new form of art that must highlight a correct set of Chinese values and accurate understanding of China's history and culture. The training course was aimed at helping game developers to understand the new approach in order to secure content approval. According to China's published game review rules, which are general in scope, regulatory reviews look at red flags such as whether a video game violates China's laws, leaks state secrets, propagates superstitions, spreads violence or gambling, or encourages minors to hurt themselves. But according to a memo seen by the Post, implementation of rules is likely to be more specific and much stricter. For example, games depicting a fictitious post-apocalyptic world where players are encouraged to kill may not be viewed favorably by censors. Here's a quote. Some games have blurred moral boundaries. Players can choose to be either good or evil, but we don't think that games should give players this choice, and this must be altered, states the memo. So you can't be evil. You must not give them the choice to be evil. They must be good players, good characters. The memo also makes it clear that the games about gay romance and effeminate males will likely fall afoul of censors. So you can't have characters that are effeminate. If regulators can't tell the character's gender immediately, the setting of the characters could be considered problematic and red flags will be raised, states the memo. Similarly, a male character dressing and behaving like a woman in a game will also invite questions. History is also a landmine for game developers. Historical elements, including characters, maps, and clothing, should conform with mainstream accounts. Games can't distort facts or deliberately provoke controversy, and historical figures with established narratives must not be refashioned. According to the memo, history simulation games that allow players to change history in virtual worlds will likely ring alarm bells, particularly if Japan and Nazi Germany are involved, according to the memo. The memo also points out that games which encourage players to destroy barbarians could be reviewed for spreading colonialism, while games featuring Japanese warlords could be seen as glorifying militarism and jingoism. On the subject of Japan, the memo also warns that many current Chinese games now look more Japanese than Japanese games.
They really love Japanese manga. They like to call all the brands in Japan in Japanese names too.
Religion is another hot topic. The use of the crucifix and swastika should be applied carefully in games, the memo says. The Post reported earlier this month that China had slowed down new game licensing, and the Chinese government issued new rules on August 30th, limiting game time for players, blah, 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 blah. So, good times over there to be a game developer in China.
So SpongeBob is out, right?
I guess the Tiananmen Square Massacre game we get back to the drawing board.
Jeopardy of Xi Jinping's book, I think that were, a good game for their students. And do you know that Harry Potter, they have the mobile game, and you cannot use the names like Xi Jinping, Biden, Trump as your user account. So that's maybe one example of how they censor that. Yeah,
You
Harry
cannot,
Potter.
BB, they cannot use Winnie the Pooh too.
Yeah. So a lot of names are banned in that game. And it's Harry Potter, yeah.
Okay, next up. Kinsha sends in this one from NPR. A gene editing experiment lets these patients with vision loss see color again. In the first, doctors injected the gene editing tool CRISPR directly into cells, turning them into fucking robots. I spent too much time in a clubhouse room here yesterday. They injected the gene editing tool CRISPR directly into the cells in patients' eyes and brought back their ability to view color. Fantastic. The experiment helped these vision-impaired patients see sharp colors again. So I just tweeted that one out. So I guess this whole gene editing CRISPR thing has benefits. The CISA releases a tool to help organizations fend off insider threat risks. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has released a new tool that allows public and private sector organizations to assess their risk of internal threats and deal with them. So we got to minimize. We got to do a lot better cybersecurity in the U.S. because we got a lot of bad actors trying to get up in our game. And then speaking of games, this one from Forbes: Play to Earn, the new crypto paradigm redefining the future of work. Play to earn, also referred to as GameFi, like gamified financial. GameFi aims at turning regular users into a governing force behind major decisions within the gaming industry. And I believe Axie Infinity deserves a bit of mention in this article, but let's see if they do. The idea, even as the 21st century labor force continues to redefine itself, moving from more traditional methods of earning towards a gig economy, most of us are still used to working for organizations, a company, an LLC, a legal structure led by another human or a team of humans. But what if the future saw us working for a digital protocol instead? Crypto economies have already begun to shape the future of work. They blend how we play, learn, organize, socialize, and create with ownership and income generation. In this sense, what is currently transpiring is much broader than work, says Stephen McKeon, a professor at University of Oregon. In the crypto economy, we have nexuses of smart contracts where the movement of resources is enforced by code rather than human intermediary relying on traditional legal structures. What this means is that individuals are now able to collectively form complex contractual relationships, even in the absence of a third-party coordinator. That's a game changer for human organization and resource management. Indeed it is. They call them DAOs. Yeah, I knew you couldn't resist chiming in here. May, go ahead.
There's a really interesting observation that I think is something that's been happening quite a lot. And from a developer's perspective, smart contracts are quite clever. And they're not just, sort of statements like in a SQL enterprise server where you're doing if-then transaction statements. Those are SQL statements. But actually, smart contracts are strung together. I've reviewed several of the major contracts, like the Bored Apes one, and that's like actually 13 to 15 smart contracts strung together. That's like over 15, 20 pages of code. And there's this, I think there's also like the misunderstanding of like what the code is actually doing. And as a developer, and any programmers in the audience would also agree, that it's creating transactions that are opening up a process inside the computer. And it's stepping through a number of things to identify the variables and the constant. So it's not as simple as just sort of, several small snippets of code. No, actually, there's a way to also optimize the code in a Solidity in a smart contract to make it actually be costing less than gas. And it all comes from how you put your unique identifiers when you parse the actual variables you're using. Sounds really geekish, but I think there's a lot of misinformation out there as to what exactly smart contracts do and what they exactly are in actuality. And as I'm testing out with the Blockchain Council on smart contract Solidity certification, there's just a lot of clarity that has to come around that, because it's such a clever way to string all these objects together, and it does take out the jobs of a lot of people, and it's unfortunate, but that is where we're going to UBI. So I really would like to see the possibility of innovation in the space and moving that forward, where there's less hands that could be nefarious in how they may to put their own spin on what they are reading or what they're seeing. And I think that's what I mentioned a few weeks ago. We talked about blockchain and AI, that if those two combined come together, that could be a massive force to be reckoned with, because then it takes out a lot more of the human possibility of human error or human judgment and makes it purely transactional.
Okay, and the article goes on to say here, these smart contracts allow us to modernize the current coordination mechanisms that convert human input into capital, resulting in brand new labor to earn models and making more viable earning opportunities accessible to previously underserved people worldwide. New labor to earn models include 3 things. Number 1, learn to earn and participate to earn, where users are paid by the protocol for simply using it. For example, on a decentralized social media app like Minds, users can earn tokens by posting, liking, and sharing. The more people use the network, the more valuable it becomes, and therefore the more it can afford to reward its users. Number 2, create to earn, where users can create art and playlists to earn network tokens, so adding content to the network. Number 3, play to earn. By far the most developed of the categories, play to earn allows players to participate in the development of the game and earn simply by playing. Drawing inspirations from decentralized finance, play to earn, also referred to as GameFi, aims at turning regular users into governing force behind major decisions within the gaming industry. GameFi facilitates a player-owned economy when it comes to trading valuables, as well as generating additional income with NFTs. The player-owned system is implemented through governance tokens, which can be represented as various game assets. Each governance token gives its owner the power to take part in the game's development and internal fund allocations, with that power, of course, being proportional to the amount of tokens each user holds. This type of system is transparent for everybody and ensures fairness in item trading between players. Players can also receive a share of the game's revenue while enjoying the gameplay. Conventional game business models are generally designed so that all the revenue goes to the publisher. In contrast, crypto games strive to build player-owned universes, allowing players the freedom to both play and earn. Here are a few examples submitted by the community of play-to-earn ecosystems. Axie Infinity is the first one named, as I said. They deserve a lot of credit for this because they are the biggest in this space. Axie Infinity, a Pokemon-style online game where players battle each other for social redeemable tokens, became one of the first major crypto games to attract a lot of new players despite having a relatively high entry threshold. Within months, its community came up with a unique strategy for those who can't afford to buy Axie monsters to play the game. By organizing a monster rental service, it was the players who made the game available and profitable for everyone, increasing the total number of players to over 1 million. Axie Infinity Protocol revenue surged 85% in the last month to reach $364 million in August 2021.
Tyler.
Yes.
They do have a scholarship program in Axie Infinity, which allows you to lend out your Axies because you require 3 of them to play. It allows you to lend them out to someone else that can play. And then there are rules on how they have access to play and earn SLP, which is a token, and you could win inside the game. But it actually allows someone else to use your Axies where you've made the investment to the game tools, right? The 3 Axies. And that person could be in Philippines and wherever, and they could play with your Axies. And you could earn inside while they're earning it for you. And they also earn a bit too, which is a really powerful model, in my opinion.
Very cool. So the next article up, by the way, we could at any moment, we've been invited to become one of the content creators in the Rally Coin ecosystem, which Evan and Dr. Francine are part of. So, and this would essentially provide a lot of what was discussed in that article here in Tech News Around the World. And I wonder if Evan on stage, he was a bit ago, or if Francine's with us. No, both are not here at the moment. But essentially, we would have a Tech News Around the World coin that escalates in value as it gets utilized, and it grants certain permissions and voting rights and participation rights, and it would similarly like play to earn, as they call it. Like the more you participate and the more you comment, and it just it's a really interesting concept of a sort of governance and incentivization structure. So we'll wait until Evan and Francine are both with us here, and our friend Jeremiah, who's an advisor to Rallycoin. Rally is also backed by Andreessen Horowitz. And I think Rally should partner with Clubhouse generally, that the whole Clubhouse itself should have a coin in this same kind of a way that goes beyond each individual room. But individual rooms who reach like 50,000 members, and we're quickly approaching 60,000 members. So we have that opportunity to explore if we so choose to.
Tyler,
Yeah.
In such a system where people get incentivized just for participating,
I'm sorry?
the risk of people just participating for the sake of participation, and actually there could be a group who can come together and dumb down that platform itself, that okay, so that everyone can get incentivized. So the whole structure there doesn't go in line with
we could
meritocracy.
penalize stupid comments. So
the platform would be governed by 51%, right? So, or the majority.
What I'm saying
right?
is if people make stupid comments, we would make them pay to make stupid comments.
Yeah, but 51% people have to agree with what you're saying. But
yeah, but I'm pretty sure we would.
But what defines the stupidity is, I think, whenever there's a mass, it always tends to stupidity, right?
Currently, it wouldn't. I would be the main holder. I would have 51%. So it'd be a very simple decision. I'd say, "Hey, Tyler, what do you think?" And I'd say, "He has to pay," and then you'd have to pay. So the next one's from Evan, and let's see what this one was. The internal. We talked about this one when we met 8-9 hours ago, but this is worth mentioning and re-mentioning for those who've already heard it. International shipping workers warn of a global transport system collapse. Let me read that again. That's worth soaking in for a second. international shipping workers, the people who ride on these container ships that are shipping containers internationally, they've all come together in a very big way to alert all of the prime ministers meeting at the United Nations General Assembly that they're warning of a global transport system collapse. Let me open this article for you. Let me tweet it out. There it goes at the Tech News Twitter account, TNATW. You can read it for yourself from the Daily Mail. International shipping workers warn of a global transport system collapse unless pandemic restrictions on trade and movement are quickly lifted. Shipping workers warned Wednesday that transport systems verge on collapse. Letter issued by the Coalition of International Unions described dire conditions. Restrictions and delays imposed by pandemic protocols are delaying shipments. Workers asked for sane protocols and easier access to vaccinations. Supply chain crunch threatens to derail the busy holiday shopping season. We are witnessing an unprecedented disruptions and global delays and shortages on essential goods, including electronics, food, fuel, and medical supplies, the shipping workers warned. The impact of nearly 2 years' worth of strain placed on particularly upon maritime and road transport workers, but also air crews, is now being seen, the group said. Their continued mistreatment is adding pressure on an already crumbling global supply chain. At the peak of the crew short change crisis, 400,000 seafarers were unable to leave their ships. That's a lot of people. And some seafarers working for as long as 18 months over their initial contracts. So what's happening is the people who work on these container ships get stuck off floating in the ocean off of a port, and the port's not able to receive them, and they're stuck there, in some cases, for years. And so they work on a contract. And their contract was 6 months. They were stuck there for 2 years. They worked 18 months longer than they could. They're stuck on a fucking boat. And these are not enjoyable boats to be stuck on, by the way. So they desperately were planning to only be on for 6 months because they have to get back to their dying mother or their child or whatever and all this. And it really disrupts their life. They don't like being stuck on boats in ports for months longer than they anticipated. So they're saying, fuck it, I'll go work at Starbucks where I can make sure I can see my family and my friends and, have a regular life. I don't want to be stuck on a prison out at sea for another 18 months. So they're quitting. And when enough of them quit, the system collapses. And they've all known for years that the Christmas season is particularly troublesome. And so they're all thinking, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to do it this Christmas. And that's why they're sending this out now, because the whole Christmas season contract situation's all developing and no one wants to do the work. And now we might not have any international shipping. No imports, no exports. So, again, let me remind you, go to oec.world, find out what your country imports and exports. And if you're importing energy and food, just assume you're not going to have any and start preparing yourself. So I've been screaming this for many months now, but these systems are not hyperstable or metastable. They're fragile, as this article actually says, specifically verbatim. And you can see how fragile they are. I just explained how fragile they are. And it's worth knowing if your system is importing energy or food, because it's likely your stores will be empty of food. So either go to a place that's a food exporter or an energy exporter, or your lights will be going out, or your gas stations might not have gas, as the UK is kind of finding out, and as China's finding out with their blackouts. So the China and the UK are not third world countries, and they're already dealing with exactly this issue of supply chain and transport. So find out if your country has energy and importing or exporting energy and food. So it's wild. This is, and by the way, when this global supply chain importing exporting thing comes to a halt, if your country GDP is based on trade, meaning importing and exporting, some countries are more dependent on trade. Some are not. America's not. America's not a major importer or exporter. China is, specifically importing food and energy. So guess who's really going to get fucked really hard by this? And guess who's not? A food energy exporter, which America is, who has a low trade of GDP ratio. So countries who have a high GDP ratio to trade are going to get really, really screwed, particularly the ones that import energy and food. These are just incredibly simple concepts that everybody should consider and take accountability, take account of based on where you happen to live and what you're going to need to do to make sure you have food and energy for yourself. And the good news is it's actually incredibly simple to take control of your own food and energy. It grows out of the fucking ground, actually. It literally grows on trees. So energy comes from the sun. You just all it requires is do it now, because when the trade collapses, you're going to want to make sure you have control of your power and water supply before the system collapses, so that you have your own water and energy. If you have energy, you can drill a deep well, get a water, you're good to go. So get your own energy and your own water on your own terms and grow your own food with that water. You get the energy, you get the water, you get the water, you get the food. You see, it's quite simple. It's kind of like ABCs. We can make a little song. So,
Hey, Tyler,
yes.
real quick on that topic.
Yeah.
Also, what COVID has taught us, I hope it has, in this great pause and reset, is that jobs that people used to laugh at and shun, whether it's the service industry, whether it's the truck driver, whether it's the merchant marine, I think people need to look in and think about how they treat each other. And then also particular to governments and companies, the way they have treated these people along the way. They're now empowered to walk because they have options. And maybe if we learn something better, we can push on. There are jobs at certain levels that are needed, and we don't need to demean them. Otherwise, when they do get power, they do have the option of pushing back. And it's their chance around the world to push back right now. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Already. So a lot of people are retweeting that article out to their friends, which is not a bad idea. Evan sends in one that Google develops AI that can accurately predict if it will rain 20 minutes prior. So you'll get very accurate alerts 20 minutes before rain. This is a beautiful use case of AI. If they're doing, 99% accuracy predictions 20 minutes in advance of rain, it's pretty freaking cool, actually. John?
By the way, did you ever revisit the issue of that earthquake
No.
fiasco? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Obviously, California has not yet had that earthquake that was predicted.
no, it turns out the guy behind that has been thrown off multiple platforms for similar misadventures previously, and that his reference to a DeepMind was totally factitious.
Okay. So Maurice sends in this one from Bloomberg. A new EV charger can provide 100 kilometers of range in 3 minutes. ABB from Sweden. Sweden's pride and joy. ABB is preparing to roll out the first of its ultra-fast charging stations in a matter of weeks, providing enough power in less than 3 minutes to charge the car to go 100 kilometers. Fantastic. So in the amount of time it takes to pump gas, you can get 100 kilometer range out of the car. Here we go. The whole argument that, gasoline cars have some kind of advantage in their charging speed is no longer relevant. Lovely. Let's get those things out quick. And the next one.
But the thing is that the infrastructure surrounding it and the cars must be built for us as well, because these are multiple kilowatts that need to be transferred in a very, very short moment. In an ordinary car, the cables would probably melt.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So not only that we have the charging port, yes, or the charging station that have the capabilities, but the cars must have the possibility to actually take that. It's like you firing off a flash, a camera flash, to actually get that amount of energy into a battery. I don't know. Where is our battery friend? I don't remember his name even.
Yeah, the Greek guy. The Milos,
Milos.
yeah. You're going to need,
Milos, yeah.
it's basically like 20 kilowatt hours and 3 minutes of charging. That is fucking fast. That's crazy fast.
Yeah, if you do the math, the thing is that the batteries, we know what power, what voltage they have, and the kilowatt. This is pure math, and it's not even hard. I would estimate that you would probably need somewhere in the range of 300 amps at 48 volts, and that is a lot in 48 volts. You undone.
So
Ohm's law.
TikTok,
Well, in the article, it says that they're going to roll it out in Europe by the end of the year. So I don't know
well, it's
if
likely
that.
to be in Sweden first because it's ABB.
I have
Swedes.
a related
ABB
question.
is
Is
a Swiss company, right? And the headquarters is in Zurich. I just read.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
have any EV.
Asera Brown Boveri is actually full name.
Yeah.
I don't have any
By
EV,
the way,
but
Cheryl, Spotify's technical headquarters is in Liechtenstein. This is a don't get
Oh.
us started on this whole issue.
are charging stations are the cars into the charging stations can charge any car? Is that interchangeable? Does anyone know?
Say that again, Morris.
Well, for example, if it's a Tesla or another type of, has that been standardized so you could use one station for different types of EV cars?
Yes. In fact, Tesla announced they're going to allow non-Teslas to use their supercharger network.
I know why. Because A merged with BB and becomes ABB. A is a Swedish, BB is a Swiss. So that's why.
So, next article from Gareth. TikTok is evolving into a very different kind of music streaming giant. Let's see what they mean. 1 billion people are now using TikTok around the world every month, and 3 times the global audience Spotify pulls in. And for the music industry, TikTok is expanding far beyond its core function as a repository of frivolous viral videos. Take, for example, Pink Panthers, the hotly tipped UK artist now signed to Warner Music Parlophone, who has over 6 million likes on the TikTok. Pink Panthers doesn't just use TikTok to get her music out to fans, she uses it to actively self A&R her ideas. I post a snippet of a track, and if people like it, I'll go and record a full version. She recently told the BBC, adding that the algorithm is crazy on TikTok. You can post a video and you can have 0 followers and it can do well. Artists like Pink Panthers, of course, are also using TikTok to get noticed by the big record labels. Some 70 acts were discovered on TikTok and consequently signed by major record companies last year, according to TikTok's own stats. The platform's higher-ups expect that number to grow significantly in 2021. TikTok's increasing presence in the music industry has even revived industry trends long thought dead and buried. Remember when the global record industry blew up the concept of exclusive artist releases on individual streaming platforms? They're now back via a side door on TikTok. The likes of David Guetta, Coldplay, and BTS have all premiered clips of much anticipated new records on TikTok over the past year, days before these tracks land on music's largest on-demand streaming services. And then there's the potential of live streamed concerts. This is an obvious expansion play for TikTok, whose per user watch time is, according to market research, now rivaling YouTube's and even surpassing it amongst some demographics. TikTok recently held a live stream show in Korea featuring major K-pop stars such as BTS, Twice, and Super Junior. The show took place behind an online gate. Users who registered a membership with the event's headline sponsor were given a code for entry. In Korea, a country where live stream tickets typically sell for $20 to $30, some 600,000 viewers tuned in. Let's do the quick math there. That's 1.2 to 1.8 million dollars for a concert they did from their rehearsal studio. The commercial potential for such projects is vast. Yeah, well, when you can make $2 million without leaving your rehearsal studio, that's not bad. There are just a handful of examples of areas in which TikTok is building on the obvious services it offers the music industry. And TikTok says that this new menu is about to increase again with the beta launch of Sound On, a direct upload service, plus a suite of tools for independent artists who want to see their music thrive on the platform. For Ole Oberman, global head of music at TikTok, these and other innovations all point towards the same united purpose, helping artists build and feed their fan bases online. As such, TikTok is building a platform that he argues fosters deeper connections between audiences and musicians than your standard click-and-play streaming service. Here's the quote. We're now at the point where a trending song on TikTok will achieve billions of views and many millions of creations in a single month, the music guy at TikTok says. That's an incredible amount of engagement, and that's really the way that we think about things at TikTok. We are a platform that is about music engagement, not consumption. Whether that's views, creations, likes, or shares, it all mixes together in this kind of new form of fandom. This fandom factor is attracting music's biggest names. The past few months have seen everyone from Taylor Swift to Ed Sheeran and ABBA launch their own TikTok channels, while other artists, most notably Jason Derulo, have built their own mini media empires on TikTok. Here, TikTok ambitions in the music space and explains that the platform's importance to artists and the music business is set to explode in the years ahead. We are very excited about the role TikTok might play in live streaming. There's a great social layer you can put on top of live stream shows, as well as monetization to complement the in real life live business. We believe we can monetize live streaming in many ways. We haven't really done a whole lot of it yet because we're currently more focused on building a great user experience, but down the road, it's something we will start testing more and more. By the way, they're just announced they're launching live streaming e-commerce about 24 hours ago in the UK, US, and Canada. So this is obviously related. This is live streaming e-commerce, but for virtual concert performances. And that's going to be a very huge thing because you could have these artists who normally have to get on buses and travel to your city to perform for you no longer will really need to, especially as we get into VR, because then you can go to watch your favorite artist perform live from their studio every day and in VR if you so wish. So that could be super interesting. And they could have a Q&A before and after the performance, and it's going to get really interesting. But that's just, the idea that artists could make, at the same amount of money they're making touring without leaving their rehearsal space, that's just wild. Totally wild. Potentially more, actually, because there's no limit to the number of seats. Anyhow, live streaming on TikTok already has momentum. We saw about 4 million unique viewers tune into Justin Bieber's live stream performance. More recently, Ed Sheeran played a live stream show on TikTok as part of an association with the Euros soccer tournament that had about 5.5 million unique visitors and was a great launchpad for his new upcoming album. And a couple of weeks ago, J Balvin played a TikTok live streaming with cutting-edge production that is already up to 4.5 million unique visitors, and we're thinking about airing it one more time. The show TikTok did in Korea gave us a real peek into how you could potentially sell access or tickets to these events, the whole gated live stream concept. A number of years ago, a leading streaming platform talked about how large the artist base that can make a living off of shows could become. Anyway, it's a really interesting to see TikTok going into this. By the way, TikTok also announced NFTs today. with a musical artist, Little Nas. And so this is a whole other mind-blowing concept, that artists on TikTok could sell their access to their music through NFTs, that their fans could actually become fractional rights owners of the
Yeah.
actual music.
I've noticed that TikTok wants to be a super app for creatives, so basically get buy-in data and also what the creatives actually want to make as well. So there's going to be a lot of, well, we obviously know they're taking the data, but it's a lot more lucrative in the way that they're doing it, because it's genuinely like everything is creator facing as well as buyer facing as well. So there's going to be so many levels to it, like especially when you're doing A&R work on TikTok as well. Like, so you're able to even do A/B testing or even ABCD testing and know what your demographics are and etc. Like, my friend just got like 1 million followers on TikTok the other day as well. So it's like I get to see in part some of that stuff going on as well. So it's cool, but then when you know what TikTok is, I don't know.
Okay. Next up, Tomoko from Japan sends in this one from The Verge. The headline reads, Chinese companies are suing Amazon after getting banned for fake reviews. And we covered the fake reviews when Amazon banned them. They're all from Shenzhen, across the river from Hong Kong. And basically all of these Shenzhen e-commerce companies were found a clever hack where, if you want to be the top store in Amazon, you got to have the highest number of 5-star reviews. That's a big part of the algorithm to determine when you do a search for, some iPhone cover, some smartphone case protector. If you have the most 5-star reviews, you're going to be listed very high. And that there wasn't a whole lot of policing of fake reviews. And fake reviews are huge in Asia, where you can pay people in Cambodia, 5 cents to leave a fake review. And they'll do that all day long. All day long. So there was millions of these fake reviews. And so people were taking advantage of this scheme, getting to the, and it's very lucrative. You pay $1,000 and you get 1 million fake reviews. And, now you're the top store for iPhone cases. And now you're making $1 million a week selling iPhone cases out of Hong Kong. So Amazon got hip to this game, and there was thousands of these Shenzhen companies that were doing this. They were all doing it. They all got, everyone's going to lunch together being like, if you're not doing this, you're an idiot. Well, it turns out if you're doing it, you're the idiot because you got caught. And Amazon doesn't like fake reviews on their platform, so they banned all of these. It was something like 3,000 sellers. In
There was an article today, though, on The Verge, Tyler, that buying those gadgets, it was pretty much still a piece of cake. There's a way, if you look at the Verge article, it's pretty easy to still buy those products on Amazon despite the ban. So they're playing like a game back and forth on how to stay in the store.
This article says that the Chinese companies are now suing Amazon after getting banned for their fake reviews. They claim Amazon is withholding their earnings. Several Chinese companies have filed a class action complaint against Amazon for banning them from the Amazon marketplace over their use of paid reviews. A new complaint filed on September 13th claims in the last year, Amazon has cracked down on companies soliciting paid reviews on its platform, claiming to have permanently banned 600 Chinese brands across 3,000 seller accounts. The companies listed in the complaint doing business as Sopo. Oh Jesus, these are just like a cat on a keyboard words. These are unpronounceable words.
Spell it.
SOPOWNIC.
Supwanic.
Sopownic. Okay, try this one. SLAOUWO.
Slow. Slow.
Try this one. DEYIXUN.
Deshaun.
That's the Pokemon, isn't
Station.
it? I'm sure it's a Pokemon.
Most
Station.
Americans can't pronounce Huawei.
So
I think like they're using
Interesting.
Chinese way to pronounce it.
Anyway, so the company,
Yichuan.
the companies,
Yichuan.
yeah, okay, the companies are seeking, quote unquote, recovery of funds that are being illegally and improperly withheld by Amazon, and are filing the class action to, quote unquote, stop any further misappropriation and misuse of funds that are legally and rightfully due to thousands of Amazon sellers and merchants. The complaint read, Amazon has a strict policy forbidding incentivized reviews, which it instituted in 2016. The companies don't deny that they violated Amazon's policies. Their problem is that Amazon's withholding several $100,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars of their claimed earnings. Amazon's Services Business Solutions Agreement, which covers fulfilled by Amazon businesses like the ones these Chinese companies operated, is pretty clear that Amazon reserves sole discretion in deciding whether or not to permanently withhold funds if a company violates its policies. The company's counter argument, Amazon is in charge of distribution in a FBA agreement, so it should have been aware the companies were offering gift cards to customers that left positive reviews. Hold on, let's unpack that. So these companies are arguing that Amazon is in charge of distribution in the FBA agreement. The FBA is the fulfilled by Amazon. So in the
Yes.
fulfilled by Amazon agreement, Amazon's in charge of the distribution. So it should have known that these companies were offering gift cards to customers who left fake reviews.
I
Meaning,
don't think they're fake reviews though, because I've purchased products and you get a letter, you get basically like a postcard in the mail saying you'll get a $5 Amazon gift card if you
okay,
give a review, a
it's
positive review.
it's not an important distinction because it's still a violation of the policies, even if true. So it could be that they're paid reviews, which is still against their policy. So the point is that they're saying, I think I understand what's going on here. So that let's assume you're correct, that these are not fake reviews. These are actual real reviews by real people who bought products, but they were paid or incentivized, and that's against the policies. And they were incentivized by getting gift cards, and that these gift cards were being sent, and all this was done rather transparently through Amazon's system. So Amazon should have known that we were violating their policies because we were doing it on their platform. We were messaging through the system, hey, you just bought our product. Would you like to leave a review? If you do, we'll send you a gift card. And this is all being sent through the Amazon system, even though it's against Amazon's policies. So Amazon should have known we were violating their policies. Hence, you knew we were violating the policies. Hence, you still owe us our money. That's their argument.
I think they're right. I mean, there's still commerce there. The violation of terms, kick them off the platform, but don't take their money. There's still commerce.
Well, Amazon's policy says if you violate our policies, it's up to us if we keep your money.
I have a question. So those products that is FBA, right, fulfillment by Amazon.
Yep.
Those products, if they are sent to the buyer, I mean, as in the customers, and if the customers return the product, who pay for it?
Then it's a scam.
Right.
Right.
So who is paying for that?
Well, it
Because
might be
Amazon
people.
has really done
They
the
could be
logistic
selling it
work,
to their
right?
friends, next door.
Mm.
So that's, again, it could be, even if they're quote unquote real purchases, they could be fake purchases because it's, they're all these 3,000 sellers are all doing it to each other, and then you've got 3,000 positive reviews,
Right.
and you're not actually shipping the items.
It's probably all boils down to intent, right?
Well, I would bet heavily that this is exactly what happened. Is in Shenzhen, all of them made a little system where you buy it from me. I'm not actually going to ship it to you. And as soon as the transaction finishes, I'm going to pay you the money back tomorrow cash. But you have to pay in through the Amazon system so that they see it was a validated purchase, a legitimate purchase. So so it was a legitimate transaction. And now you can leave an authenticated review. You're an authenticated buyer, a verified buyer. It was a verified transaction. And So, well, then in that case, you wouldn't need to incentivize them with the gift card. So maybe not. Anyway, it's weird. So the counter argument is that Amazon should have known because they're in charge of the FBA arrangement. So it shouldn't have been. So it should have been aware that these companies were offering gift cards to customers that left positive review. The View has asked Amazon for comment and will update if we hear more. Actually, trying to enforce its policies is a good thing for Amazon to do. Just because it was more relaxed before doesn't mean it loses the right to be strict now. It's easy to sympathize with these companies, but their experience is also the reality of building a business on a platform you don't own. At any point, the rug can be pulled out from under you. That also seems to be the implication of their point, which is, well, you weren't enforcing this before. And so we all did it, and now we're all being penalized. And Amazon's like, yeah, well, we didn't police it before, but we're policing it now. It's gotten out of hand. Okay, so there's that. They're suing. We'll see how that one shakes out. And Sarif sends in this one from MIT Tech Review, which does really good work, by the way. And the headline on this one says, a feminist internet would be better for everyone. Life online for women is toxic and filled with hate and sexism. Some activists say it's time to reimagine how the whole thing works. It's April 13, 2025. Like most 17-year-olds, Macy grabs her phone as soon as she wakes up. She checks her apps in the same order every morning. Herd, Signal, and TikTok. Herd started out as a niche social network aimed at girls, but everyone's on it these days, even the boys. Macy goes to her personal page and looks at what she's pinned there. Photos of her dog, her family, her school science project. It's like a digital scrapbook for all the things she loves all in one place. She reads comments from her friends and looks at what they've added to their own pages. She doesn't really go on Facebook. Only grandparents are still using that. Or Twitter. Herd is just nicer, so no like counts, no follower metrics, no shouty strangers. She checks Signal. Signal's been popular since the great WhatsApp exodus of 2023, when WhatsApp announced it would share your yet more data with Facebook and users fled to more secure encrypted alternatives. I told you MIT does good stuff, right?
I like where they're going with
I
this.
absolutely love the style of this. It's a futuristic narrative. Next, TikTok. She watches a video of some girls dancing, swipes up, sees a cat jumping through a hoop, swipes up, reads an explainer on volcanoes. TikTok doesn't collect so much data these days, nothing on her location, on her keystrokes. Much of that sort of data collection is illegal now, thanks to the Data Protection Act pushed through by lawmakers in the US 3 years ago over big tech's lobbying. Maisie's running out of time. She needs to get ready for school, but she thinks about checking Instagram. Though she did get a weird message from a guy on there recently. She's used the app's simple one-click process to report him and knows she won't be hearing from him again. Instagram has taken harassment much more seriously these past couple of years. There are so many competitors and choices for where to spend your time online. People won't bother staying in a place that doesn't make them feel good about themselves. So then that's the end of the fantasy futuristic narrative. It says, this vision of an internet free from harassment, hate, and misogyny might seem far-fetched, particularly if you're a woman, but a small growing group of activists believe the time has come to reimagine online spaces in a way that centers women's needs rather than treating them as an afterthought. They aim to force tech companies to detoxify their platforms once and for all, and are spinning up brand new spaces built on women-friendly principles from the start. This is the dream of the feminist internet. The movement might seem naive in a world where many have given up the idea of technology as a force for good, but aspects of the feminist internet are already taking shape. Achieving this vision would require us to radically overhaul the way the web works, but if we build it, it won't just be a better place for women, it will be better for everyone. And then it goes into a bunch of screenshots that you have to see, actually. A whole lot of screenshots. So it's an interesting concept, and I think they're right that it's rather inevitable, and I think identity verification will go a very long way to reducing precisely these types of egregious behaviors from all angles, above and beyond the feminist issue, or the harassment issue, we should say.
My phone's about to die, but I have an interesting example. I made a new friend, and now my Instagram algorithm is all Asian models for some reason. And I've never followed that. So I'm wondering if there's some weird feedback loops they bring into things just to drive the
So
men
what you're
into that
telling
vehicle.
your wife, Chris, it's the algorithm that did it.
Baby,
My
the
wife,
sweetheart,
my,
darling.
It's not your fault. It's the algorithm.
my wife knows my what I like. But I mean, what I'm getting at is she's an Asian woman too. That's what I'm getting at. But it's just weird. It's just weird to go from like machinist stuff to all of a sudden my entire feed is nothing but, like Instagram models. Is very strange and very like
That's
weird timing.
you know what
Congratulations.
that's exactly what my dad say when I see funny pictures on his phone. Oh, it's not me. My friend sent something to me. Yeah.
Dude, I'd never used Instagram. And so like everything was machinist stuff. That's all I follow is machining and like manufacturing. And then suddenly, I don't know, maybe she tagged something at some point and it created a new loop for me.
Alrighty. We've reached a really nice pausing point with the tweets. We're just 20 minutes over. And we will, as usual, do a very special Saturday meeting for the hardcore geeks who are addicted to the tech news, where we get through, because there's not a lot of normal news announcements on the Saturdays. But what we do have is I am about 27 hours of tweets to go through that people in this room have tweeted to our Twitter account. And on Saturdays, we catch up through all of those 26 hours of tweets. But when we meet again tomorrow, we will be 24 hours in the future. So it will be a total of 50 hours of tweets that we will have to get through, which we
Yeah,
do.
but Tyler,
Yes.
check the timing of your schedule. I think
Okay.
you have to reset the time. Yeah.
I will.
And on Monday, we'll all be discussing the 60 Minutes interview.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yes.
Where according to someone from Facebook who testified before Congress, she was asked if there would be retaliation against the employee, and she answered not because she's going after 60 Minutes, she's going to go testify before Congress. She said not for testifying before Congress and left it there. So it's going to be interesting.
Right.
That's her insurance. That's her insurance policy.
Right. But she may have violated other, policies that they can hold her accountable for. So that's a proper answer, actually. Great answer. Very, very
Okay.
intelligent answer, actually.
Yep.
I
Okay.
think she probably have some advice from the legal counsel.
Yeah, if you look at the staging of the leaks and the 60 Minutes appearance and announcing who she is, it's all very calculated.
Alrighty, it's going to be fun. So that's Sunday, but we're going to meet here tomorrow, same time zone. I'll put it in the calendar now, so you can ring the bell.
You just adjust it.
Yep. Alrighty.
Thank